Well struck and out of here. Joey Ortiz, number 3. There's a fly ball to the left. And it's hit a ton. And Durbin leaves the yard. The eyes is Ortiz. Out to left again, headed towards that pen. Goodbye. Fly ball well hit center. Throw Armstrong back to the wall. He's got just enough room. Mason Wynn rounding third. PCA forgot how many outs there were. The front of the play lane. Little chopper. Nolan has to avoid the base runner. Throws the fence and got him. What a play. The Cardinals beat the Cubs 8-7 in a game that had a little bit of everything. That was one of the best games of the season.
Yeah, he just made a mistake. Obviously lost track of the outs, and it's just a mistake.
Compilation of some good moments. A wild night in the NL Central last night. Of course, we're mostly going to focus on the Brewers and the Pirates, but I was watching the end of Cubs-Cardinals last night. If you had the free time and the means or the illegal stream to watch the end of Cubs-Cardinals last night, it was certainly worth it. And even the Reds game, right? Their young stud pitcher. The NL Central has become very interesting. The Brewers taking care of the Pirates, which is not completely and totally surprising, although after Monday's game, it didn't really feel like a foregone conclusion. So yesterday, Freddie Peralta didn't get off to the best start, and it's like, oh my God, is it happening with the Pirates again? It felt like, oh God, we're going to lose tonight, and then Paul Skenes is going to shut us out tomorrow. And we thought, all right, 3 games against the Pirates, then 3 games against the Rockies. You're going to win at least both of these series, maybe get a sweep, and we're going to start off losing 2 of 3 or maybe even getting swept by Pittsburgh. And then Joey Ortiz came to the rescue, and Caleb Durbin had a big swing. So not a total shock that the Brewers beat the Pirates last night. It didn't feel like a foregone conclusion at the beginning of the game, and I am a little surprised as to how it happened. The Brewers started hitting home runs, and the home runs came from like 2 of the least powerful hitters on the team in the batting lineup. So that's where we begin today. It's the Bill Michaels Show. Now, my name is Grant Bills, normally the producer for Bill and this program. Bill's at the Brewer game today, not just attending as a fan. He's there on behalf of some organization, and I'm not trying to be diminutive or disrespectful to whatever organization or whatever he's doing. I just can't remember because he asked me last week, and I said yes. And Bill's always like, "Thank you so much." And I'm always like, "I'm in the studio anyways. I'm going to be in this chair pushing these buttons, using this microphone anyways. I'll just talk a little bit more." Which, a little secret: most people work in radio, they don't actually mind the sound of their own voice. So, plus, get to talk about a great Brewers result last night, a pretty funny and really entertaining Cubs and Cardinals game. And you heard that member of the Cardinals broadcast in that montage in the intro saying that game had a little bit of everything. And it did. Arenado's play to seal the deal at the end. PCA forgetting how many outs there were in center field. And because of the Cardinals holding on to beat the Cubs last night, the NL Central is now a lot tighter at the top, at least compared to a week or 2 ago. The Cubs are still in the lead, but they are now 4-6 in their last 10. I think they've lost 5 of 6 or 4 of something. It hasn't been a great couple of days. They lost the finale to the Brewers. They lost 2 of 3 to the Mariners. And now they've lost the first 2 of a 4-game set in St. Louis. They lead the Brewers by 2.5 games and the Cardinals by 2.5 games. And the Reds, as far as a third place team goes, not that far behind, 4.5 games back. They're 7-3 in their last 10, and they're playing some better baseball. So again, that's where we will begin, but we have a lot of other things to get throughout the course of the show. 3 stellar guests, a couple of my favorite people. So Sam Bruchhaus is going to be here from Sumer Sports. Outstanding analyst, very, very smart, played linebacker at Tulane, got a little bit of that Southern, St. Charles, Louisiana accent. Outstanding guest. I love any time that he's on. So he's going to be here at 12:30. At noon, we're going to talk with Spencer Michaelis, who is one of my favorite Brewer voices. He was filling in on Monday for Kurt on the Microbrew podcast, and Spencer is on Twitter. He's a pitching coach actually at Wisconsin Lutheran College, but he does a lot of Brewers coverage, the Brewer Fanatic Pod with Jack Stern, who's another one of, we're pretty lucky as Brewers fans with some really, really sharp, smart people. So Spencer's going to be here at noon. And then at some point, whenever there's a lull in the show, I have an interview from last night that I want to play for you. If you hang out on the live stream, the cheap seats, it's YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, Twitter, whatever, You maybe notice a fella, I assume, I don't know, but I assume it's a man not because they're a sports fan and they're commenting on Bill's show, but because they're rather stubborn and annoying. That's typically more of a male trait. TR on the live stream is always saying, talk Marquette, talk Marquette, talk Marquette. And at first it annoyed the hell out of me. But TR has been doing this on the live stream so long that I've actually started to respect it and I've started to enjoy the bit. So Isaac Trotter is going to be here. I interviewed him on my show last night because that's what worked better with his schedule. And I'm going to play that for you. And we talked about the NBA draft, specifically Cam Jones, Marquette product, who figures to go maybe in the back of the first round, early in the second. John Tonje, Badger product, who I think could be a nice reserve player for a team that needs a player who's ready to go day one of their NBA career, maybe in round two. Also, Con Knipple, Wisconsin product. Talked a little bit about him. Talked about Blackwell returning to Wisconsin and what Isaac kind of heard and saw in that process. And then talked a little bit about Ace Bailey and Dylan Harper, the two Rutgers guards. And we're familiar with those guys because they played in the Big Ten and Wisconsin matched up with them a couple of times, including winning a game at the Rack that was really ugly. But that was kind of the story of Ace Bailey and Dylan Harper in that era, that one season of Rutgers basketball. Two top 5 NBA talents, 2 lottery picks, and it just never really resulted in winning. They barely made the Big Ten tournament. They didn't make the NCAA tournament at all. That interests me. So talked about all of that with Isaac Trotter last night. You're going to hear that interview coming up a little bit later on in the show. Your calls are welcome. 608-321-1670. And you can text that number too. Ebo is telling me at the end of the morning show, there might be a little bit of a carrier issue specifically with Verizon. So if you try to call and you can't get through, that is why. Hopefully we get that resolved, but you can always text and you can comment on the live stream. As Bill always reminds you, YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, Twitter, the Kick app, the LinkedIn app. And I'm streaming on my Twitter at Wisco Grant, as I believe Bill's Twitter account is at Bill_Michaels. Let's talk a little bit about the Brewers specifically last night, although it was a really fun night, like I said, all around baseball. There was a moment, and it was while I was driving home, where I actually messaged my Brewers group chat and said, we're going to get swept, aren't we? Like, that's how this is going. This is going to be another classic Brewers-Pirate series. When the Pirates aren't any good, they're 32-49. The Brewers are 44-36. They had an outstanding weekend against the Twins, getting the sweep, and now it's like, all right, Cubs are struggling. Now's the time. 3 at home against the Pirates, 3 at home against the Rockies, and isn't it just so typical of the Brewers to then fall flat in that moment? And there was a moment during the game. It was the top of the second inning last night. I was driving home, and I messaged my Brewers group chat on Twitter. I say one that I'm a part of. It's not like I'm a mod or an admin. And I said, yeah, we're going to get swept, aren't we? So the top of the first for Freddie Peralta goes strikeout, strikeout, double, strikeout. It worked pretty hard. Brewers go in order in the bottom of the first. Then in the top of the second, single, single, single. The bases are loaded. The Brewers offense has barely had an opportunity to hit, but in that opportunity, they did nothing. Now Freddie Peralta's got to pitch out of his butt and work really, really hard just to get out of the second inning, the top of the second inning, with the score, somewhat close. But then he gets a ground out. The run's cut down at home. Then he gets a strikeout. Then O'Neal Cruz flies out to left. And I thought O'Neal Cruz at the plate. It's like, oh, here's a grand slam. He's going to hit this off the old scoreboard up above the Mountain Dew deck. And he lines out to left. A really, really good play by Isaac Collins. And at that point, it almost felt like, okay, maybe we're good. And then it was later in the bottom of the third, Joey Ortiz hitting that 2-out home run. That kind of felt like an inflection point in the season. And I know that seems kind of insane. A Tuesday night game against the Pirates. It's the third inning. How can a swing or a play be an inflection point in the season? I think that swing from Joey Ortiz is just so important. As we're kind of wandering through this Brewers-Pirates game, and I'm looking over the fence, and I see the Cubs are trailing again. They're struggling. Again, their offense has slowed down a little bit. They're pitching. Jamison Tyone can't get anybody out, right? Craig Counsell's futzing around with the lineup. Dansby Swanson's hitting 5th again. Cubs fans are angry about it. Like, there's an opportunity here, and the Brewers can't get off the mat against the Pirates. Like, this feels like such a crucial week of the season, such an important moment of the season. And when Joey Ortiz crushed that ball out to left field to make the game 2-0, and I think many Brewers fans went, okay, all right. I feel like it's gonna feel like we're gonna be okay. I mean, I feel like this is all going to work out. Like, okay, we're not going to get swept. We're not going to get swept by the Pirates, and then look back in September and think, oh my God, if they just had won another game or two against the Pirates, maybe the Brewers would be in the postseason, or maybe they wouldn't be in the spot that they're in. I thought that Joey Ortiz homer, big picture for the Brewers and the way this season is trending, really, really important. But also for Joey Ortiz. Joey Ortiz homered later in the game in the bottom of the fourth following Caleb Durbin. Caleb Durbin pimped a 3-run homer and flipped his bat. And when that happened, I texted Austin, another producer who's on the network. And if you hear him on the morning show with Ebo, or he's filled in with Bill for me as well. He's, produced for Bill when I'm being a lazy POS and wanting to work from home. You'll hear Austin. He's a Cubs fan. And I texted him last night as the Cubs were trailing. I said, Austin, your team is boned. Like, if Caleb Durbin is hitting 3-run tanks and flipping his bat, like, I'm sorry. Your team, you're screwed. Like, sorry, Austin. That's the way that it works. Craig Counsell is telling you lineups don't matter. Dansby Swanson's going to hit fifth, even though we can't put the bat to the ball and get a clutch hit with runners in scoring position, let alone get a home run, which you'd like a little bit out of the 5-hole, right? You could take a walk, but that's not going to help. So the Cubs are struggling. Jameson Taillon has completely fallen apart. I expected him to regress this year. I didn't expect him to regress this hard. I thought it would happen before late June. But I guess later is better than never, at least from the perspective of a Brewers fan. The Cubs are facing some adversity for the first time this year. They are struggling. And what's going on up in Milwaukee? Little Caleb, 5'7" Caleb Durbin, whose earlobes extend right into his shoulder blades, is hitting balls into the second level beneath the stadium club and left and pimping his bat, flipping it over his shoulder. Yeah. The Cubs are going to start to feel it. So I thought that Joey Ortiz homer, crucial for the flow of this season, and it was in flux last night. It's like, are we really going to have a letdown this series against the Pirates? Ortiz's first homer does wonders to kind of kick that idea in the pants. I think then that begets a little confidence from Caleb Durbin, which begets more confidence from Ortiz. He hit his second immediately after Durbin. It was a really fun game to watch last night. And Freddie Peralta, in true Freddie Peralta fashion, gives up the big 3-run home run in the sixth. Luckily, they had plenty of insurance. But I think between Ortiz and Durbin last night, a massive night for the bottom of the order, just extending that lineup a little bit. And I think considering what's going on between the Cubs and the Cardinals, again, the Cubs have not fallen apart. I still think they're very good, and I think pound for pound, they're still the best team in the division, and it might not even be close. I think they're significantly better than the Brewers. Whether they can win more games than the Brewers, that's a completely different question. Because last year, I don't think the Brewers were far and away the best team in the division. They were the best at winning games. And I think that could still end up being the case this season. The Cubs have not fallen apart. The Cubs don't suck all of a sudden, but they're facing adversity for the first time this season. They have been on cruise control. Their pitching has been getting the job done. They've been crushing home runs. Now the offense has come back down to earth a little bit. The pitching has definitely come back down to earth. And the rest of the division have started to figure it out. The Brewers have figured it out. I think the Cardinals, to a lesser degree, have started to figure out. I still don't really trust the Cardinals. I think they're a tier beneath the Brewers, but I think they're capable of beating the Cubs and having a good week or a good 2-week stretch. And this is why, Bill and I have gone back and forth talking about the standings. At certain times, the Cubs have led the division by 6 or 7 games. And Bill has said, well, if you fall too many games out, if you fall 7, 8 games out, then it comes time to be a seller. Then it comes time to talk about, what the Brewers can and can't do this season. And mathematically, that's a good way of looking at it. I just find myself all too often looking at baseball standings and then checking back a week later and thinking, okay, well, I thought that wasn't supposed to happen. You know what I mean? I think Bill often says mathematically, it takes about a week for you to pick up a game in the standings on average. True, if you extrapolated over an entire 162 and you looked at the different line graphs of all the teams in the standings, mathematically, that might be how it shakes out. Bill's been covering and following baseball and broadcasting in baseball a lot longer than I have. So that could very well be true. The problem is sometimes it only takes a week or a week and a half for one team to go ice cold and for another team to get white hot. And what seemed like a really comfortable 6.5, 7.5 game lead, all of a sudden you look up at the standings 8 days later and it's 2.5. Like, the standings can move pretty darn quickly. They typically don't, but they can move pretty quickly. Now, again, if you go by the math, it takes a week to pick up a game on average. Well, if you go back a month or two ago to when the Brewers were having some success, and Bill kept pointing out, but they've only picked up a game or two on the Cubs. Okay, so in that great stretch of play, they didn't pick up any games. Probably a little bit of an outlier. Now, in this stretch, they've picked up a ton of games. Probably a little outlier. But when you look on average, of course, across that entire sample, whether it's a month or two, the Brewers have been doing work in this division. And what can feel like a comfortable 6 or 7.5 game lead in the division, it can actually tighten up pretty darn quickly. And I know Brewers fans are kind of split. Well, do we want to cheer for the Cubs? Do we want to cheer for the Cardinals? Because the Cardinals are right there with the standings with the Brewers as well. I want the Cubs to continue to feel the heat and the pressure, and I want them to feel things tightening up a little bit. I think that's going to do well for the Brewers. I'm not particularly concerned about the Cardinals. I think they're having a great week or two stretch. They've won 7 of their last 3, or 8 of their last 10, actually. 7 of their last 3. It would be 7-3 in their last 10. The Cardinals are 8-2 in their last 10. I want the Cubs to continue to feel things are tightening. I want them to continue to feel that pressure, because I think then Jameson Taillon is going to continue to feel tight. Dansby Swanson is going to continue to feel the pressure of the slump that he's been in. PCA, I want him feeling like, man, if I don't hit 3 or 4 massive hits tonight, like my team's not going to have a chance to win. I want the Cubs in that environment. I want them feeling that. And I think this Brewers team probably operates pretty well as the lucky spoiler underdog, or plucky, not lucky, but plucky, underdog spoiler. Like, let's continue. Let's see if we can chase the Cubs down. Let's see if we can ruin the season. They got off to such a good start for them on the north side of Chicago. So I'm very pleased with the state of the Brewers. And then today, Paul Skenes and Jacob Mizorowski at American Family Field. It's going to be about as good of a daytime baseball game as you can get in late June. So we'll continue to talk Brewers. I'll take your calls and texts at 608-321-1670. Your comments on the live stream. The cheap seats as well. We'll continue to pick at those. More Brewers talk, and I have a fun NFL topic for you at the bottom of the hour at 10:35. So a lot coming up. It's the Bill Michaels Show. My name is Grant Bills, in for Bill today. We'll be back in just a couple minutes.
Ready? This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
And now for the Pella play-by-play, here's Jeff Levering.
Thanks, Gina Della from Pella. What a beautiful day to have new windows and doors installed.
Every day is beautiful because Pella installs year-round during all seasons.
And as Pella goes into another windup, it's so hard to guess that next pitch. The customizations seem endless.
And it doesn't have to be super expensive. Pella has a product line for every budget.
And if it is time for a major upgrade, rest easy by scoring no interest and no payments for up to 2 years.
Pella also provides a free in-home consultation, which includes a no-obligation quote.
That's always a great play, because working with one of Pella's design experts is such a wonderful, no-pressure get-together. I know this from experience.
With a range of affordable options and products assembled in the USA, you can get the look you want at a price you can afford.
And there's no reason to wait with this incredible deal going on.
Get no interest and no payment for up to 2 years.
Visit PellaWI.com today.
Certain restrictions apply in 6/30/2025.
Bill Michaels here. Your 2 wheels revved up, because here it comes. The Big River Rally, where the river meets the road. It rolls into La Crosse on June 27th and 28th. Join us for a weekend packed with action. Stunt shows, a killer bike show, food trucks, all kinds of awesome vendors. Friday, Rod's River Run, with Texas Hippie Coalition lighting up the stage that night. Then Saturday, it's the Big River Rally Ride. Miles and miles of pure freedom. Then Saturday night, Drowning Pool rocks the house. Grab your tickets right now. BigRiverRally.com. That's BigRiverRally.com, and I'll see you there.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
I'm really happy for Joey. He also goes out and plays the heck out of defense. One of the most important positions on the field, and he plays it really well. So I'm really pleased with how he's. But I'd say confidence is number one.
It's Pat Murphy after the game last night talking about Joey Ortiz. Hit 2 home runs, and even before last night, Joey Ortiz has been pretty good the last couple of weeks, and I think the underlying numbers would actually be kinder than the counting stats. On my show, 4 to 6, by the way, my name is Grant Bills, filling in for Bill today. I pointed out last week, and I don't know where I would have saved this statistic. I guess I can look really quick. I can do a quick search. But Joey Ortiz has had some of the worst luck. It was Saladino World, a good Brewers account, who tweeted. This was back on the 19th, so these numbers have aged just a little bit by a little bit less than a week, 6 days. But he tweeted, Joey Ortiz at this point had hit 35 line drives this season and is hitting 400 when he does so. That's the second lowest average on line drives for players with 35 or more line drives hit this season. Or excuse me, let me reread that. So Joey Ortiz on liners was hitting 400. The next lowest batting average on line drives among qualifying players, so 35 or more, is 524. It's a difference of, 124 batting average points. Like, Joey Ortiz had the worst luck of any qualified hitters on line drives. Now, Joey Ortiz, bottom of the order guy, has had a bad year. It's not like he's been ripping the ball every single swing and getting unlucky, right? He's got still one of a relatively low barrel rate and hard hit ball rate. He's still not squaring the ball up, quite as much as you'd like, and obviously not at the level of a guy who hits at the top of the lineup or in the middle of the order. He's bottom of the lineup guy who's going to rely on, a hot streak here and there and then playing a good shortstop. Okay? Or at least that's who he is right now. And that's fine. If he plays good shortstop and gives you some offense in bunches, you'll take that, right? You shouldn't be relying on Joey Ortiz to hit 30 bombs and produce a bunch of runs. That's why Christian Yelich is getting paid. That's why William Contreras is here, although not in this form because his broken hand has really limited him in doing much of anything. But that's why Hoskins, Churio, those guys in the middle of the order, not because of Joey Ortiz. But up until, I would say, about a week ago, Joey Ortiz, on the very minimal like hard hit balls that he had, was getting really, really, really unlucky. I think over the last week, that luck has started to turn just a little bit. He's got multiple games now with multiple hits. And I thought I bookmarked a couple Joey Ortiz stats last night. I got numbers coming out of my ears here. We'll talk about this with Spencer Michaelis. He'll be here. Brewers Fanatic, does a great podcast. Really, really, really sharp Brewers mind. He'll be here in about, an hour and a half at 12 o'clock. I just think Joey Ortiz in this form, even without hitting home runs, like there's a player that plays there, especially with the way that he's been playing short recently. He's hit some crucial games and was super important. Like, I don't think they win that second game against the Cubs without his defense at short. Here's Pat Murphy asked last night that if Joey Ortiz was so bad, well, I guess this is what Mike Clemens captioned. If Joey Ortiz defense was bad too this season, was he close to being released? Which wouldn't release him. I would imagine he still has options. I don't know, but you get the point.
Well, offensively, he was lower than whale poop. You know what I mean? You know that term, Joe? Whale poop. Well, when a whale it goes all the way to the bottom because it's a big animal, right? So when you're lower than that, that means you're really down low. And Joey was lower than whale poop. And for him to fight out of that and have the ability and the mental toughness to play defense still when you're down there under the whale crap, you just got to commend the guy for crawling out of it the way he has. So I couldn't be happier. Couldn't be happier for him.
It takes a lot of stomach to continue to go out there every day when you know that you're not playing well and that no one's happy with you and that people on sports talk radio, just for an example, maybe you're using their platform to complain about you. In the month of June, Joey Ortiz has played 20 games, 71 plate appearances. He's hitting .303 with 6 RBIs, 3 stolen bases, 3 walks, 20 hits, 9 runs scored, OBP of .343 and a slug of .348. So the power isn't, obviously what he's going to make his bones on. He's going to be a defensive first shortstop. And if he can give you hot stretches of offense here and there, all right, that's a player that'll work. My concern about the Brewers, I think my concerns are still there. If Ortiz and Durbin are both going to be mostly contact hitters, and I understand they both hit home runs last night, but I mean in the biggest of big pictures. Joey Ortiz is not Willy Adames, and Caleb Durbin is not, Arenado in his prime, Travis Shaw that one year that he was good, right? Like, he's not going to provide much pop and power and production. Ortiz, while it shouldn't all be on him again, but he's not a guy that you're going to count on and rely on for power, pop, and production. Turang, who is an outstanding second baseman, but cannot really be relied on for a lot of pop and power and production. That's 3 members of your infield that are bottom of the order guys, which is fine if Yelich is performing at a high level, Churio's performing at a high level, Contreras is performing at a high level, which is not happening. You're getting something from first base. I've been a Brewers fan long enough to know that I never really want to count on that. And then your third outfield spot, you need power and production and pop there, but that's Sal Frelick, right? So do you get kind of what I'm saying? This version of Joey Ortiz is a nice player. And this version of Durbin, what he's doing with himself, and he's really improved his defense. You can almost see it happening in real time. Like, he's a player that's useful. Turang's a player that's useful. Ortiz is a player that's useful. Frelick's a player that's useful. But that's like 4 spots in your lineup that aren't going to provide much slug, aren't going to provide much power. And if that's the way your lineup is constructed, you better hope that Yelich keeps producing and keeps having the year that he's been having over the last month. You better hope that Churio has stretches of superstar level play. Hoskins, I don't know. And Contreras remains kind of the governor or the ceiling on this team. And that's, I think, the most frustrating part of this team right now is he's got this busted hand and he wants to play through it. Fine. But it's kind of neutered what makes him best as a hitter. His best trait as a hitter is bat speed and hitting the ball hard. He's never been a guy who's elevated the ball consistently enough. That's what separated him from being a fringe MVP player to a bona fide MVP player. And look, fringe MVP player is still great. That player would be a godsend to this Brewers offense right now. But this version of Contreras, it doesn't do much for me offensively. He strikes out and he hits ground balls. Now, he hit a lot of ground balls before, but he was hitting them at 105 miles an hour. Now with the broken hand, his bat speed is diminished and his exit velocity is diminished, and he's mostly kind of a slap hitter. And that's not going to fix itself this year because that hand injury is significant. And I think that's the biggest bummer of this season. It's like, well, if I could count on Contreras being healthy August 1st or healthy in the second half, my God, like, you could really hope and dream about maybe what this team could do. And while I think this team is playing a lot better, and I'm really excited about their trajectory, it's tough because, well, I just know that Contreras is going to be hitting third or fourth, and he's pretty useless right now, and that's not going to change. It's the nature of his injury. We'll come back, talk a little bit more baseball. I do have an NFL topic that I want to get into at 11. Mike Florio and Pablo Torre put out this explosive report about what's going on behind the scenes in the NFL. It's very entertaining, and I'll share some of those details with you. But I don't really just want to read you legalese and quotes from depositions. I have a greater take about the NFL and what some of these leaked documents that may evidence a bit of collusion on the part of the NFL owners. I want to have a bigger conversation about that. I just want to report collusion because I think for the most part, fans going about their daily lives don't really care. Are the games going to be on Sunday? Are the players going to be on the field? Are they going to continue to get superstar contract? Okay, just all right. Put the fries in the bag. Just tell me when the games are on. So I don't just want to read you reports. I have a greater take about the NFL and the state of the NFL. So we'll get into that in hour number 2. Sam Bruchhaus, Spencer Michaelis, Isaac Trotter, all going to be here as well. It's a loaded Bill Michaels show. The only thing we're missing is Bill Michaels. We'll be back in just a couple of minutes.
This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 5 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 4 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
The Bill Michaels Show. Like I said, the only thing that we're missing today is Bill Michaels. Got a loaded slate of guests to join us in the next few hours. Spencer Michaelis, a Brewer fanatic, to preview Skenes and Miz. But also, what's up with Joey Ortiz? What's up with Caleb Durbin? Like the bottom of the order, providing some pop and power last night. We'll talk about all things Brewers, not just about today's game. Isaac Trotter going to be here to talk about some of our Wisconsin-based NBA draft prospects. Yes, even Marquette. So for those of you, that loud minority are over there on the cheap seats, I was like, talk Marquette. Well, we're going to talk about Cam Jones and his draft prospects today. Also, John Tonje, Con Knippel, who didn't play out of Wisconsin College, but is from here. He's going to be a lottery pick. It's the first round is tonight, isn't it? It's weird. You'd think it should be on Thursday, but I believe now it's 2 nights, so that's probably why. And then we also talk about, some Big Ten players. I'm very interested to see how the Ace Bailey, Dylan Harper duo goes into the NBA and what they're doing. And I'm skeptical just because, I don't know, if a college team in the Big Ten has 2 lottery players on it, that player should make the NCAA tournament. And they didn't, which I just think is something. It has to be something. So we'll get into that in the hours to come. This portion of the Bill Michaels Show, and really every portion, even if we don't mention it, is brought to you by Quick Trip, who we all absolutely love. Their summer sweepstakes is in full swing. So this summer, if you're ready to climb with Quick Trip all the way to the top, you got to gear up for their Mountain Dew Quick Climb. Every sip gets you closer to the top, to the summit. Now through August 17th, you can play each day for free in the Quick Rewards app and score bonus plays with every eligible item that you grab, like an ice cold Pepsi, which it's funny that comes up. I actually walked. There's a Quick Trip in walking distance to the station. It was really hot on Monday. It's like, I'm just going to go get a fountain drink. I got ice cold Pepsi. You can also buy bold Mountain Dew, hydrating Gatorade, or Propel, a sparkling bubbler, a smooth Starbucks drink, refreshing Pure Leaf, or the high voltage taste of Rockstar, whatever beverage sounds good to you. Grab one of those with hot food and earn 2 bonus plays every week. Someone's cashing in all the time. Each week, the cash prize climbs by $5,000, stacking higher and higher until one player reaches the top, scoring the ultimate prize, which is $250,000 in cash. So you're already using your Quick Rewards card, and you're already connecting it with your app to win and to take advantage of all the rewards that are already available to you. So log into your Quick Trip Rewards app and get climbing for a chance to win, because this summer, the view from the top is worth every play. Quick Trip Mountain Dew Quick Climb, your summer, your climb, your win, no purchase necessary. And you can see the full rules at quicktrip.com/sweepstakes. A couple Brewers text. If I'm going to read the number and remind you that you can text in, I should probably read them. Steven Richfield says, Joey goes yard twice. Awesome. Grant, 2 more for the Cubs in St. Louis, then a 3-game series in Houston. Tough stretch, time to gain some ground. Thank you, Steve. You are right. The Cubs are going through a tough stretch, but I think equally as important, the Brewers are going through an easy stretch. 2 series at home against the Pirates and the Rockies. You have to take advantage. And then to kind of close out the first half of the season, the Brewers need to bank as many wins as they can now, which is why I'm like, I'd love to win one of these series and sweep the other. Now, the worst that they can do, or the best, I suppose, that they can do against the Pirates is winning 2 or 3 because they lost the series in opener on Monday. But I would like to bank as many wins as possible over the remainder of this series and next, because after this series, you go to New York, to Miami, and then 4 at home against the Dodgers. So, yeah, Miami's not great, and you have Washington to close out the first half, but 2 of your next 4 opponents after this week are at the Mets and home against the Dodgers. Those are 2 of the better teams in baseball. A little bit more challenging than the Pirates and the Rockies. So, again, banking as many wins as you can now, hoping to hold your water the best you can when the schedule gets a little bit tougher. That's the secret to a 162-game season. When you're hot or when you're playing opponents that are weak, bank as many wins as you can because you don't know when you're going to be able to get wins down the line. And then when the bats go cold or the opponents get tougher, just hold your water the best you can and steal wins whenever you can when things aren't great, right? That's one of the most important principles in sports, not just baseball, but in sports. When you're hot, you got to make hay. And when you're cold, you just have to minimize the damage as much as you can. Mailman Bob says, Grant, on the subject of Contreras, why is he still in the 4-hole batting .241 after last night? And it's obvious his hand is an issue. Is it just because there isn't a better option? Well, yeah, that's probably part of it. Like, is there someone further down the lineup who would be better play? Typically in the 4 spot, you want power, right, Mailman Bob? Well, Hoskins, I guess, in theory is that guy, but he hasn't really been that guy recently. I know he had a couple over the last week, but it's not like Hoskins is this cut and dry, awesome power threat. And he's not even playing every single day. You know, Bowers has been mixed in a little bit. Certainly Hoskins has taken the majority of the time. He's not playing every day like Contreras. Joey Ortiz, Caleb Durbin, Bryce Terang, like none of those guys are going to hit 4th. Sal Frelick's already hitting leadoff. So you want to move Churio or Yelich down to 4, fine, but then who's moving up to 2 or 3? I'm with you. Contreras is a massive issue for this team, and a big reason why I think they're still limited from really, really reaching the heights that maybe we've seen them reach the last couple of years, because that hand isn't getting better. It needs surgery. It needs an extended amount of time off. It's not like he's going to come back from the All-Star break in way better shape, and he's going to go right back to the player that we saw when he was healthy to begin last season. And it's really frustrating. I saw a tweet the other night pointing out kind of the funny contradiction in Contreras, like, hey, I'm a tough SOB. I'm going to play through injury every single day, but can't always be bothered to, leg one out to first base on a grounder. I am a little frustrated with Contreras. I know that Pat Murphy sings the praises just about every single day of the job that he does catching and working with pitchers. And he's done a great job throwing out base runners. I actually think, and I'll pull up his StatCast because I bet this will be reflected in the numbers. I bet that his biggest value add to the Brewers this year has been as a catcher who's thrown out base runners. I'm looking at his profile right here. His framing's actually been pretty great too. He's done a good job over the last week of framing. His best offensive asset right now is his walk percentage. He's got a 15% walk percentage that's 97th percentile across Major League Baseball. His fielding run value is excellent. That's basically where you're getting value from Contreras as a guy who takes walks and is defensively playing a really good catcher. That's about it. His hard hit percentage is in the tank. His launch angle sweet spot has never been his bread and butter. Contreras, up until this point in his career, up when he's healthy, hits the ball hard. His problem is that he doesn't elevate it enough, which is kind of what has limited him from being a very good to great player. It's prevented him from being a great player or an MVP level player, is not elevating the ball enough. He hits it hard as hell, but all too often he's hitting it on the ground. Well, now with his hand injury, he's not hitting it hard anymore. His bat speed has basically become average. His hard hit percentage is worse than average. His exit velocity is significantly worse than average. Like there's not much left in that hitter profile that's useful other than taking walks, but he plays every day and he hits in the cleanup spot. It's tough. And that's not a problem that's fixing itself. Clemhead Mike says, Grant, I always enjoy it when you fill it. Oh, thank you, Clemhead. A little bit of a plant in the audience there. I got one. Jeremy comments says, Grant, although Isaac Collins has been great, do we ever see Yelich going back to the outfield in any capacity? That would allow us to trade for a DH and move Collins to our 4th platoon outfielder. No, I don't see that happening. I also don't know that would do him much good. Isaac Collins has been great as a 3rd outfielder. I'll take that player every single day of the week. Defensively, he's been terrific. He saved a couple of runs on that O'Neill Cruz line drive in the 2nd with the bases loaded. Really good first step. Had to have it with how hard the ball was hit. Your first step, your first instinct needed to be perfect, and it was. It's his best trait as a fielder is his jumps or his first step when the bat comes and strikes the ball. I'm not worried. Yelich has been great as a DH. This works. My concern is not necessarily with their 4th outfielder. Frelick is young and in his prime. Isaac Collins is young and in his prime. Same with Chourio. Those guys can play every day. And when Blake Perkins is healthy, he can fill in. I'm content with that. If you need Jake Bowers in an emergency, I assume that Blake Perkins would take Daz Cameron's spot, but if he doesn't for whatever reason, then Daz Cameron is around as well. I'm not really worried about outfield depth on the roster right now. If you wanted to improve one of those spots, like if a stud outfielder becomes available and the Brewers want to go get him to replace Isaac Collins and then make him the fourth outfielder, and he only becomes the fourth outfielder because you go and get someone who's clearly better, sure. But I'm not really looking to gild the lily in the outfield right now. I think Isaac Collins has been outstanding in left, and I think Chourio is going to get better every day in center. And Sal Frelick is Sal Frelick. Like I'm just kind of content with the way that it is. Austin told me this the other day. This is the line that I've been continuing to use on my show. The best outfield that the Brewers can currently field with players in their system are the ones that we're fielding. Like this is the combo. This is it. Now, if they make a trade to bring someone into their organization, into their system that's not already there, well, then we can readdress. But Blake Perkins or Garrett Mitchell, although I think Garrett Mitchell's season is probably done. I hope that it's not for him. But I think now with this shoulder injury and the surgery that's 8 to 10 weeks, that would put him in late August, September. I would just add an extra month at least to any prognosis on a Garrett Mitchell injury, which look, the Brewers can make Game 7 of the World Series. I wouldn't expect Garrett Mitchell to be available off of this injury. I wouldn't expect him to be recovered. I hope that's not the case for him. I've just been watching him for 3 years. That's basically how it's worked. The best outfield that the Brewers can currently man with players in their system is the one that they're manning every night. And I'm content with it. TR, welcome to the live stream. He says, please talk about Marquette. TR, today is your day. Because coming up at 11:35, just about a little bit less than an hour from now, I have my favorite college basketball guest coming on, and we're going to talk about Cam Jones and his prospect in the NBA draft. Now, we're also going to talk about Tonje and Knipple and some other players that have Wisconsin ties, but Cam Jones is the first name we talked about. I recorded with him last night, and you were the listener that I was thinking about. So, TR, if you can't listen at 11:35, please tell me you're at least going to go listen in the podcast. Please. Otherwise, I love his name's Isaac Trotter, 24/7 Sports, and I love him, and I will take I'll take any opportunity or any excuse I can get to get him on. But I specifically thought about you. Like you are the guy. It used to annoy the hell out of me when you always commented about Marquette, and now you're so committed to the bit I've actually started to enjoy it. So we're going to talk about Cam Smith, John Tonje, Knipple, Ace Bailey, Dylan Harper, all of those players with either Wisconsin or Big Ten ties with the NBA draft tonight. And that was the end. That was the way to talk a little bit about Marquette, TR. So that's coming up in about 35 minutes. Isaac Trotter will be here. Coming up next, we'll wrap up hour number 1 of the Bill Michaels Show. And then at 11 o'clock, I have a fascinating NFL story to throw on the table, and we can discuss that as well.
Covering Wisconsin sports like a blanket, this is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
And now for the Pella play-by-play, here's Jeff Levering.
Thanks, Gina Della from Pella. What a beautiful day to have new windows and doors installed.
Every day is beautiful because Pella installs year-round during all seasons.
And as Pella goes into another windup, it's so hard to guess that next pitch. The customizations seem endless.
And it doesn't have to be super expensive. Pella has a product line for every budget.
And if it is time for a major upgrade, rest easy by scoring no interest and no payments for up to 2 years.
Pella also provides a free in-home consultation, which includes a no-obligation quote.
That's always a great play because working with one of Pella's design experts is such a wonderful, no-pressure get-together. I know this from experience.
With a range of affordable options and products assembled in the USA, you can get the look you want at a price you can afford.
And there's no reason to wait with this incredible deal going on.
Get no interest and no payment for up to 2 years.
Visit PellaWI.com today.
Certain restrictions apply in 6/30/2025.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Last segment of the first hour, today's Bill Michaels show. Bill has an engagement. He has an obligation. And as usual, when I need to fill in because Bill has an engagement, I have forgotten what his engagement was. He's at the Brewer game today, and we'll talk more about the Brewers. Mizorowski and Skenes will be going at it at 1:10 today. And at least in the world of baseball, which can be a little nerdy and a little limited to the world of baseball. I mean, like Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes play, or Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow play, like all the football fans are going to watch, and then that's going to break through to kind of more of the mainstream. I don't think Skenes and Mizorowski is going to lead Sports Center tonight, but as far as an afternoon baseball game goes on June 25th, it's about as good as it gets. So we'll talk more about that. Spencer Michaelis, the Brewers Fanatic podcast. He does it with Jack Stern. It's tremendous. He's going to be here at noon. Sam Bruchhaus is going to be here at 12:30. You're going to hear from Isaac Trotter at 11:35, who joined me on my show last night, but I'm going to replay it for you. I asked Isaac to come on this show, but he's got a busy day with the NBA draft. I said, well, we could do it on my show the night before. I just replay it. And I think of a couple of you on the live stream that always want to hear Marquette talk. We're going to hear Cam Jones draft analysis, John Tonje, Con Knippel, Ace Bailey, Dylan Harper, right? All of these players with Wisconsin ties. And I even asked him about Blackwell, who tested the draft waters and is now going back to school. So he talks to a lot of people around the league, both in the college and the NBA sphere. So he can kind of give us some details on that. I saw Matt Schneidman tweet something 45 minutes ago. If I may rant about this just for 2 minutes to wrap up the show. I like Matt Schneidman. I've never really interacted with him other than a text or two. His work at The Athletic is good. His reporting specifically on the Jair Alexander case in the season last year and in this offseason has been good and has been more substantial than anything anybody else got. I was frustrated at the lack of Jair reporting, but Schneidman had more than anybody else, which was basically nothing. And I know like Domofsky had, all options on the table. Okay. I'm talking about do you have any specifics from either side? Schneidman was really the only one who had it. Matt Schneidman, who covers the Packers with The Athletic, is a known Yankees fan. And seemingly an intentional, obnoxious one. He tweeted about 30 minutes ago, I bought a ticket for $72, 3 rows behind the Pirates dugout. Yankees wanted me to scout their future pitchers. Great day for baseball here in Wisconsin, which annoyed me a little bit because, Pirates. Now, look, the Pirates, I'm not going to feel bad if they ever have to trade Paul Skenes or if he leaves because they're just a clown show, and they haven't even tried to be good around Paul Skenes. The Brewers do an excellent job of developing their own pitchers and being in contention, which is more than most teams of their status and structure can say. No, Brewers fans, they haven't stacked World Series, but I think they've been very, very successful in their space. This annoys me when someone needs to, use their big market heft, their Yankees fandom, to try to ruin on or rain on our parade. What I do find funny, and what I tweeted at Wisco Grant, actually what's become one of my favorite parts about being a Brewers fan is watching teams like the Yankees overpay for the aged husk of one of our players who is now not that good anymore. Good player. Seen it with Mizorowski. Saw it with Contreras last year. Extend him. Great day to extend him. Great day to say, no. Got Contreras for a couple more seasons, and if his hand ever isn't broken, he might be pretty good once again for the Brewers. And with Mizorowski, he got under club control now for the full runway, even if he's a Super 2. I'm not going to get into those details. I don't want to extend him. I want to extract the best performance and the best outings out of the best stretch of his career, and then I want some dumbass team like the Yankees who can't develop their own pitching to go out and spend hundreds of millions of dollars, and then his arm's going to blow, or he's not going to be that good anymore. See Corbin Burns. See Devin Williams. Lots of examples. Hour number 2. I've been NFL Sports Show.
Nearly 40 years, men and women transform themselves into highly skilled trade professionals. These skills are in demand and provide strong wages and benefits for a bright future. If you're a hands-on person who likes the feeling when you get projects done, apprenticeship could be for you. Go to buildyourcareerwi.org or just search online for ABC of Wisconsin.
The NBA draft is tonight in Brooklyn at the Barclays Center. Now the Bucks are not scheduled to pick in the first round tonight, with their lone pick in the draft coming up on Thursday night. That's also where former Wisconsin guard John Tonje could hear his name called. He's moved up most mock drafts and now projected to go in the middle of the second round. For the Wisconsin Sports Zone Network, I'm Ebo.
How are we looking? The Bill Michaels Show, minus Bill today. He'll be back tomorrow, and he'll be here Friday. He has a commitment today with an organization or with a cause. He gets asked to speak on behalf of a lot of organizations and causes, which, by the way, if you yourself have an organization and a cause, you need someone to come speak on a work day, I'll be there. Just give me the talking points. Bill, lucky that his engagement today is at the Brewer game, so he's going to be there for Skenes versus Mizorowski coming up later this afternoon, and we'll talk about that in an hour. Spencer Michaelis, a Brewers fanatic. He's also a pitching coach at Wisconsin Lutheran College, does some really, really heady breakdowns of players in the minor leagues, but the major leagues too, on Twitter, so you should follow him. He'll be here in an hour to preview Skenes Mizorowski, but I also want to talk about some bigger issues with the ball club. What Ortiz and Durbin did last night. I want to talk about Contreras, which is just kind of this albatross in the middle of the lineup. It is kind of this sinkhole in the 4 spot, but he plays every day. And you can move him down, but who are you moving up? It's just a little bit of a sticky problem. So we'll talk about that and all things related to the Brewers in about an hour. Isaac Trotter going to join us to talk NBA draft, specifically the prospects with Wisconsin ties. Cam Jones, John Tonje, Con Knippel. And then just because I'm curious, Ace Bailey and Dylan Harper, who were both at Rutgers, and that team sucked. So explain that to me. We'll connect with him in about 20 minutes. An NFL story that I want to talk about. And I listened to an hour-long podcast on my drive in this morning from the horse's mouth. If you have not seen this, and it's not as sexy as a big trade, it's not as maybe earth-shattering as an NFL team going up for sale, it's not as wild as Trey Hendrickson or TJ Watt demanding a trade. It's a story that pertains more to the business of the NFL, which, of course, Mike Florio is at the center of this. And I'll be honest, I'm thrilled for Mike Florio. This is his white whale type of a story. We caught the NFL's hand in the cookie jar. I have the documents. Now we can lay it bare. So it's Pablo Torre, who, interestingly enough, was getting a bunch of pub about a month ago for Jordan Hudson, Bill Belichick reporting. Now has got his hands on this. I believe it's a 61-page record or transcript or a dossier. It's a combination of documents going all the way back to, I believe, 2022, or maybe even a little bit earlier than 2022, when there was a hearing. I think the hearing itself was in 2022, but the material covered, or the events covered in the hearing between the NFLPA and the NFL, ruled on by an independent arbitrator, goes all the way back to the Deshaun Watson contract, which is fully guaranteed, and then the efforts of the NFL and the owners in the NFL to collude, which is what the PA was alleging, to not let that become the precedent. Just because Deshaun Watson got a guaranteed contract does not mean we're going to give it to Russell Wilson, not mean we're going to give it to Kyler Murray or Lamar Jackson, which were the 3 other quarterbacks that were mentioned in this. The suit, or that I'm not exactly sure what legal action it was, but it was the NFLPA versus the NFL on the topic of collusion, including a bunch of owners, including a bunch of quarterbacks, and actually it ballooned to almost 600 players. So the damages, had this thing ruled in favor of the PA, would have been enormous. Now, the independent arbitrator did not rule on behalf of the PA. It ruled on behalf of the NFL, saying there is no defined collusion. We cannot rule in favor of the PA. But in the process of this hearing or this suit, I don't know exactly what it is, all of these artifacts came to light through expedited discovery. They have emails, they have PowerPoint slides, they have texts, they have all these lines of communication between the NFL and the owners, especially through something that's called, I believe, the Management Council. So the NFL basically has a body or an arm, and I'm going to play you a little audio that explains this here in a sec, that delivers information to teams that maybe kind of pushes some messaging, or here's how we want the businesses to be run. Just because Deshaun Watson got that type of contract, well, here's a PowerPoint on maybe how we're not going to keep doing that. And they have those slides. And then they have testimony, but also texts and emails among owners talking about quarterback contracts. They have communications among the PA. The PA is not innocent in this. I think the most interesting part of this story, and I listened to Pablo Torre's full podcast, and Florio's on it on the drive in today, is how J.C. Trotter replaced DeMaurice Smith at the head of the NFLPA, which seemed kind of like a quid pro quo, because as soon as J.C. Trotter got this guy elected, and he did so very quickly, there wasn't a lot of information, it was rushed, the guy that he hired then installed J.C. Trotter in a new role that he had kind of carved out and created for him. And the most interesting part, or one of the interesting parts of this, is you would think that because the PA got all of this evidence through expedited discovery of owners and the league colluding, all of these juicy emails and texts, well, the PA wanted to keep it hidden too, because the PA was saying things they didn't want out. There's evidence in this thing of J.C. Trotter calling Russell Wilson names and blaming Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson is the reason, right, that we're not going to be able to get guaranteed contracts. He used words that I cannot say on the air to describe Russell Wilson. So the PA was trying to keep this hidden too. And Pablo Torre and Mike Florio were working together, and they blew the lid on this whole thing. And I'm not just bringing this up to share with you the legal inner workings of the NFL, although some of you might be interested in that. I do have a larger take about it, but I need to kind of give you some details and set the stage. So I have 3 sound bites from the podcast that I've been cutting throughout the morning. This is a little bit of a summary from Pablo Torre about who was involved in these hearings or in this deposition where all these artifacts and all this evidence came from. So here's a 45-second kind of outline of who's involved here.
I just need to tease a bit of the detail here, which is that the core of this document involves a closed-door hearing held over 10 days in July and August of 2024, close to a year ago now, that featured witness testimony from the following people: NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell, Ravens quarterback Lamar Jackson, Cardinals quarterback Kyler Murray, current Giants quarterback Russell Wilson, former NFLPA president J.C. Trotter, former NFLPA executive director DeMaurice Smith, as well as the billionaire owners of the Giants, the Browns, the Cardinals, the Broncos, the Ravens, the Patriots, the Falcons, and the Chargers. Which is to say, have you ever seen a document like this before?
No, that's 25% of the league's owners testifying in that hearing.
It is pretty wild. That many owners, quarterbacks, players, and here's another cut to kind of follow up the exact scale of this. It wasn't just these star quarterbacks, Lamar Jackson, Russell Wilson, and Kyler Murray. And it's the reason that it's those 3 players is this goes all the way back when Deshaun Watson got that guaranteed deal. The next quarterbacks who were seeking their deals were Kyler Murray, Lamar Jackson, and Russell Wilson. None of them got it. And it's the process of them trying and failing to get those guaranteed contracts that led to communications between the league and the owners communicating amongst themselves. And that's where you can see evidence, although they were not proven or not ruled on by an independent arbitrator, the evidence is pretty damning that they were working together to make sure, all right, Deshaun Watson got it, but these next guys, Lamar, Kyler, Russell Wilson, they're not. So that's why these 3 players are involved. Here's a little bit more, background on who is involved.
Lamar Jackson, first and foremost, Kyler Murray, and Russell Wilson, none of whom received fully guaranteed contracts. And you mentioned the almost 600 at some point during this litigation, this collusion grievance that was filed under the auspices of Article 17 of collective bargaining agreement. It went from 3 quarterbacks to 594 players. And that's important because, number one, I didn't know that. I hadn't heard that. I thought it was 3 quarterbacks. You take 594 players, and if there's ultimately a finding of collusion, the damages would have been in the billions if they had won this.
But the union did not win this. To be clear, no damages ultimately were awarded, which is also more or less all the public has ever heard about this case. Until today.
So that's kind of the final bit of setup. If this sort of thing is interesting to you, it's a great podcast with lots of good information and pictures from documents and news reports. This is a document that was a part of this 61-page bundle that both Pablo Torre and Florio got access to, which is why we get all these details of the inner workings of the NFL. This is some messaging that was sent to owners in this time period from the league's management council. And I'm going to read you. This was on a PowerPoint they got access to. Lastly, if guarantees continue to grow in both amount and number of players, then there's a risk that they become the norm in contracts regardless of player quality. That not only has the potential to hinder roster management, but set a market standard that will be difficult to walk back. Of course, all clubs must make their own decisions, but continuing these trends can handcuff a club in the future. So basically what that is in these meetings that they're being discussed, the NFL sent in their people, the management council, which is what it's called, to present to owners. And they basically said, hey, Deshaun Watson got a guaranteed contract, but let's pump the brakes here. If we start handing out too many fully guaranteed contracts, regardless of if the player is special or Patrick Mahomes or Tom Brady or even Deshaun Watson, then that's become the norm. And we're not going to be able to put the toothpaste back in the tube. So let's maybe not do that. And then at the end, the disclaimer, of course, all clubs can do what they want. Wink, wink. Of course, you must make your own decisions, wink, wink, which I think that language being included in the slideshow is probably what legally kept them safe. Because again, all of these documents and these bits of audio and these texts are ripe with evidence. But if you cover your ass with certain disclaimers and even if in a court of public opinion, you're very clearly in the wrong, in a court of law or by the rule of an independent arbitrator, which it wasn't a jury, it was one person who oversaw the case, just like, baseball arbitration, that can keep you legally in the clear. Here's an exchange. This is insane. This is the exchange that I screenshotted between Dean Spanos, the Chargers owner, and Michael Bidwell, who owns the Cardinals. And this is immediately after Kyler got signed. Dean Spanos texts the Cardinals owner, "Congratulations on signing Murray." Michael Bidwell, the Cardinals owner, responds, "Thanks, Dino. These quarterbacks are expensive, but we limited the fully guaranteed money and have some pretty good language. Thankfully, we have a quarterback that's worth paying." And then the Chargers owner replies, "Your deal helps us for our quarterback next year." Cardinal owner replies, "I think many teams will be happy with it once they have a chance to review. Cleveland really screwed things up, but I was resolved to keep the guaranteed money relatively low." So again, these are two owners who are technically competitors in their marketplace celebrating, "Hey, thanks for doing that one thing. That'll help us." And then the other owner saying, "Yeah, I think the league's going to be happy about this. We managed to not really pay him that much guaranteed money." Insane, right? John Mara also pushed back in an interview about this. This is the Giants owner, because they, again, a quarter of the owners in the league were deposed or testified or were caught, speaking publicly or on the record in this stack of papers one way or another. I guess the specifics are less important for the purposes of this segment. This is the last bit of audio that I want to play for you. This is Florio reacting to John Mara, basically saying, "Why would I ever help Jerry Jones? I'm going to make my own decisions. He's going to make his own decisions." The idea that these owners are helping each other, it's ridiculous. Here's Florio's reaction to that.
If you look at John Mara's quote, and he has been the president of the NFL Management Council Executive Committee for years, why are you bothering to try to herd the cats if your position is, "I have no interest in trying to herd my competitive cats," right? It should be 32 businesses, every man and woman for himself, running their own business with no coordination, no communication. Here's the CBA. It's for you to figure it out. So when I see that Mara quote, it makes me say, why? Why have a management council if your position is, "Well, I'm not here to tell other owners what to do"? That's what the management council does, Pablo.
There you go. That makes sense.
Existence of the management council in and of itself, per se, collusive activity. The mere existence of it is collusive activity, in my view.
So what Florio is saying, the fact that there's a management council giving presentations to these teams and saying, "Hey, let's maybe back off the guaranteed contracts a little bit. We don't want to set any precedent, but you can do what you want." Florio's point is, well, if teams are free to do whatever they want, why do we need a management council? Why is that PowerPoint? Why is that evidence? Why does that exist in the first place, right? Which I think is an excellent point. Again, I'm thrilled for Florio because this is the exact type of thing that he's wanted to report on and wanted to be a part of forever. This is right up his alley. Oh, shady dealings among league owners in back rooms and in boardrooms. Yeah, that's right up Florio's alley. So I share all this with you, not just to share with you a salacious legal NFL story. I actually kind of like what the owners are doing. I don't like that they collude. That's bad. But then again, what's the difference in collusion and, a unified front among teams that are in a CBA? Like, where's the line? I know collusion is illegal. Collusion is bad legally. I think a defining feature of the NFL that does not exist in the NBA, does not exist in baseball, that I think really helps the NFL's popularity is the contracts aren't guaranteed, right? Even a quarterback who's a superstar at the top of their sport can sign a big contract, make a bunch of money, get a huge signing bonus, get a massive payday in year one. He has to perform and stay healthy and stay locked in and stay dedicated, because guess what? If 2 years into a 5-year contract, he got lazy or he stopped caring or he got hurt, the team can cut him with no penalty. And that's real life. That's how we operate. There's nothing worse than in basketball where it's like Paul George is podcasting and doesn't really seem to be locked in. Well, good luck, Sixers. He's just starting a 3-year extension. You know what I mean? Like, that sucks. Or in baseball, Anthony Rendon has an MVP caliber season, signs a 10-year deal, and then very clearly stops trying and isn't interested in playing in baseball. And the Angels have no recourse. Colluding is bad, and there's real legal ramifications to that. But I like that the NFL holds the line on some of these things. I like that the NFL fights tooth and nail for contracts that give the organization control and command as much as they do pay and reward the player. There's obviously a line in the middle where the player should get a bunch of money and get a big signing bonus and be compensated for their play. Yes. The organization also needs to hold and wield some power in this equation, because in baseball and basketball, it's gone all out of whack. Player empowerment's taken over the NBA. Players don't even get to free agency anymore. They just demand a trade with a year left on their contract. They have all the leverage in the world, because if another team that they don't want to go to tries to acquire them and say, well, I'm not signing there, so screw you, don't trade for me. Instead of just playing out the contract and getting to free agency. Remember free agency? The NBA's free agency opened the other day. Did you hear? Did you notice? Of course not. Because the players that matter, the players of consequence, never get to free agency. They demand a trade first. Remember when Kevin Durant was an honest-to-goodness free agent in 2016? Do you remember how wild that is? Do you remember how entertaining that was? It doesn't happen anymore. Because the players wield all the power. The NFL, more than any other league, has a great balance between organizational power and player power. I don't want fully guaranteed contracts in the NFL. I want players on some level to actually have to sing for their supper. And I want the teams to have some sort of recourse when a player gets injured or they stop trying or they become a pill. I want them to have an answer. Hey, by the way, football fans around the country, how's everyone enjoying that Deshaun Watson contract? Has that been good? Has that been additive to the NFL experience? No. Lord, no. It sucked for everyone involved, because Browns fans have had to endure him, and the rest of the NFL is like, I guess we'll watch Joe Flacco on this Thursday night football game. I guess we'll watch Jameis Winston. It sucks. So, yes, collusion is bad. I want the NFL legally in combat with the Players Association to continue to strike the balance that they've been striking. Player contracts are going to get bigger and bigger. Players are going to make more and more money. But if the player starts underperforming, or they become a pill, or they find themselves legally in hot water, Deshaun Watson actually, hits for the cycle. Like, I want to be able to move off from that player. And Deshaun Watson is sitting in Cleveland and he's getting paid. And that's the outlier in the NFL. I don't want that. So anti-collusion, yes. But I like that the organizations wield legit power and the commissioner wields legit power in the NFL. And I think a lot of American sports fans are with me on that. We can talk a little bit more about this on the other side. It's the Bill Michaels Show. Isaac Trotter going to be here in about 15 minutes to talk about some of the Wisconsin-based NBA draft prospects. There's a Badger. There's a Marquette Golden Eagle. There's Con Knipple, who didn't play college ball in Wisconsin, but played high school here. And some Big Ten prospects as well. That's all coming up in just a couple minutes on the Bill Michaels Show.
Covering Wisconsin sports like a blanket. This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
It's the Bill Michaels Show. Grant Bill's filling in today. Bill's actually going to be at the ballpark with an organization. It's also lacrosse day at the ballpark today. What a windfall for lacrosse and our WKTY listeners to get Mizorowski and Skenes. So we'll talk about that matchup coming up at noon with Spencer Michaelis, the Brewer Fanatic podcast. He's a pitching coach for Wisconsin Lutheran, too, knows a lot of ball. So certainly we'll talk about Skenes and Mizorowski, but I also want to talk about pressing Brewers matters. The performance last night of Ortiz and Durbin. Also going to talk about Contreras being kind of a black hole in the upper third of that lineup. I got a comment earlier in the show, like, how is he still hitting cleanup? They got to fix that. Well, he's not in the lineup at all today. Haas is catching and hitting ninth. So Hoskins goes to the 4 hole, Yelich to the 3, Churio to the 2, et cetera, et cetera. That remains kind of a how do I put this in a PG way? Kind of a bummer, let's just say, the Contreras part of it all. Because that finger's not fixing itself. That hand's not fixing itself. He's just going to be this player the rest of the year. And he's additive defensively as a catcher, but it's not like Haas sucks at defense. Haas is mostly just fine too. So it's just really frustrating. We're going to talk about the NBA draft coming up with Isaac Trotter, because we get some comments on the live stream. Talk Marquette. Well, Cam Jones is going to be selected, if not tonight, tomorrow night in the NBA draft. John Tonje as well. So we'll talk about that with Isaac Trotter on the other side of this next break. And then also, Con Knuppel and some other Big Ten storylines we can pay attention to, specifically the 2 kids from Rutgers. On the topic of the NBA draft, Brett Siegel, who is a national NBA insider and reporter for Clutch Points. Nobody that I had heard of before, but that's not exactly saying much. There's a lot of people on the internet. A lot of them do good work. He is followed by some people that I trust. He's got a blue check. We're just going to treat this as gospel. I think it probably is, but if it's not, who cares? He tweets, Jaylen Brown has been a hot name trending in trade talks around the league, and the Utah Jazz made an aggressive push in the last couple of days to try to acquire him. League sources told Clutch Points. More on Brown, the Celtics, and tonight's NBA draft. And in fact, I'm going to do a quick Twitter search for Jaylen Brown just to see if there's more buzz. I love this. I love it, love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. Brett Siegel reporting. I'm going to see if anyone else has reported any of this. Several teams in the top 10 of the draft have been making trade offers for Jaylen Brown and Derek White, according to Windhorst. Okay, he said that on First Take earlier today, so it seems though there's some real smoke there. There's some real buzz. Sam Amico of HoopsWire also reporting the same thing. I love this. I think it's great. In a perfect world, here's what happens. Jaylen Brown is taken to the edge of the cliff. He is almost traded. It almost goes through. It's clear the Celtics almost ship him out. And then they don't. That's the dream. And they've done this a couple times already. They almost traded him for Jimmy Butler or Anthony Davis. They almost traded him for Kevin Durant. This is what's good for the Bucks. This is what's good for the East. Not Jaylen Brown getting dealt, although depending on what he's dealt for, I suppose that could work just fine too. What I want is Jaylen Brown seeing his name in trade talks and in trade rumors and feeling like the Celtics are hemming and hawing on him. I want him feeling insulted, and I want him feeling like the team doesn't want. I want him upset, and then I want him to come back to the Celtics and have to deal with it. It's not personal against Jaylen Brown. That's just the situation that I crave. I want him unhappy and at odds with the Celtics. And the next year, Jason Tatum is hurt most of the year. Jaylen Brown, I want him disgruntled, feeling like you guys almost traded me. Why am I here? That's good. That's ideal. That's perfect. And this is something that I've talked about before. In fact, I remember doing a Twitter video about this a couple of years ago. I'll go back and find it. We're going to take this break just a little bit early because we have a guest at noon, and I want to start Isaac's interview coming up on the other side of this break with a little bit of time to talk some Brewers before we get to Spencer Michaelis at 12 at the top of this next hour. So we're going to break just a couple minutes early, but this portion of the Bill Michaels Show brought to you by Cousin Subs. I had a Cousin Subs over the weekend. The subs are big. You get your money's worth. And my favorite thing is to get one for dinner on the way home, eat half of it, wrap the other half up nice and tight in the fridge, and maybe this is degenerate behavior. I like eating the other half for breakfast. A cold and ice cold sandwich for breakfast instead of, let me get the frying pan out, let me get the eggs out, let me get the bread. Oh yeah, get that. Or if you want to have a big dinner and you're not thinking like a crackhead, like what can I have for breakfast in the morning, ice cold as I'm running out the door and making sure I'm not late for the start of Bill's show, stop by, get a Cousin Sub, some fries with the cheese curds, get a little shake as well. This hot weather, ice cold sandwich, delicious ice cold shake. Of course, you can get the grilled subs. They have warm options too. But this time of year when it's hot outside, I really prefer the cold, crisp, delicious, tangy. You get a little bit of that vinegar, a little bit of that, I don't even know what they shake on there. I think it's mostly vinegar, a little oil. It's so good on a hot, steamy, humid summer day or summer evening for dinner. Can't recommend them enough. Cousin Subs, they believe in better. We will be back with Isaac Trotter. Yes, Marquette is going to get a mention on the Bill Michaels Show. Everyone mark it down in the history books. We'll connect with Isaac Trotter, 24/7 Sports, next.
This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
And now for the Pella play-by-play, here's Jeff Levering.
Thanks, Gina Della from Pella. What a beautiful day to have new windows and doors installed.
Every day is beautiful because Pella installs year-round during all seasons.
And as Pella goes into another windup, it's so hard to guess that next pitch. The customizations seem endless.
And it doesn't have to be super expensive. Pella has a product line for every budget.
And if it is time for a major upgrade, rest easy by scoring no interest and no payments for up to 2 years.
Pella also provides a free in-home consultation, which includes a no-obligation quote.
That's always a great play because working with one of Pella's design experts is such a wonderful, no-pressure get-together. I know this from experience.
With a range of affordable options and products assembled in the USA, you can get the look you want at a price you can afford.
And there's no reason to wait with this incredible deal going on.
Get no interest and no payment for up to 2 years.
Visit PellaWI.com today.
Certain restrictions apply in 6/30/2025.
The Big River Rally, coming to La Crosse, Wisconsin, June 27th and 28th. Don't miss the excitement on the main stage. Friday night, it's Texas Hippie Coalition. And Saturday night, Drowning Pool. Tickets are on sale now. Want more? Follow Big River Rally on social or go to BigRiverRally.com.
Bill Michaels will resume in 5 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 4 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
It's the Bill Michaels Show. Welcome back. Appreciate you being here. Spencer Michaelis going to join us in 25 minutes. Talk Brewers. Sam Bruchhaus at the bottom of the next hour. Going to talk Packers. Big stories around the NFL. So if you've been annoyed so far with all the baseball talk and you're like, I don't want to hear about the NBA draft, well, just give us less than an hour. We'll be right back all over the NFL. Sam Bruchhaus is Sumer Sports, one of my favorite people. Also one of my favorite people, Isaac Trotter, 24/7 Sports. Going to join us now on the hotline to talk a little bit about Cam Jones, John Tonje, Con Knuppel, maybe some other Big Ten stories. And Isaac, I asked you very short notice to do this on a very quick turnaround, and you were able to, so I appreciate you for that. Thank you.
Of course, no problem. I'm doing well. My Cardinals are firmly in the mix right now, although we did just get passed in the standings by the Brewers. So that's kind of like Operation 1 right now. Operation 2 is the whole NBA draft thing that I have to spend 4 hours doing tomorrow.
Well, you're a multitasker, so I appreciate that. I couldn't decide. Brewers fans we were questioning last night who we're supposed to cheer for, and I know it's June, so like the standings are going to change. But do we cheer for the Cubs to continue to fail, or do we basically cheer for the Cardinals to pass us in the standings? Because that's ultimately kind of what we were picking. Do you think the Cardinals are good enough, for the long haul? Is it a team that can be there at the end of the year?
I don't trust this team one bit. I know that we're 43-36. I know we're kind of in the mix for the wild card. I just don't think that this team is something that I trust long term. The pitching scares me. I think the staff has done a pretty good job of like bumping up some of the young guys. I think we've kind of hit a lot better actually than I thought. But I don't think this team is good enough. Ivan Herrera going down with an injury, I think he's strained his hamstring, going to be out 6 weeks. I think he's our best hitter. I would not be surprised if this offense comes back down to earth over the next 6 weeks. And the Cardinals are flirting around 500 and in third place in NL Central.
I don't mean to be a jerk. That is my hope, because I can deal with the Cubs. I can deal with that. I don't want to deal with both of them. I just can't do that as a Brewers fan. So that's my hope, and we'll see what plans out. But the NBA draft is here. A little crazy that the finals are on Sunday and then the draft is this week. There's 3 players that I want to talk to you about. Cam Jones from Marquette, Tonje from Wisconsin, but I actually want to start with Knuppel because he's a Wisconsin guy, and he is by far and away of the 3 the guy who's being mocked the highest. Top 5, top 8, kind of somewhere in there. Talk about your impression of him as a prospect and things that you're hearing from folks around the league.
Well, everybody loves Con the person. I think that people are really, really excited about what type of character they're bringing into their locker room. And then from a player perspective, he is one of the smartest offensive players in this draft. I think that he plays off 2 feet at a really high level. He could shoot it at a really high level. I don't think that like Klay Thompson comps are crazy with how well he can shoot the basketball off the move. And then obviously it feels like if he has his feet set catch and shoot wise, it is, just knocked down 45% from downtown. And I think the other thing that just keeps coming across with his tape is like, obviously as a playmaker, he can make plays, but he's just so strong. Like he just bullies dudes out of the way, just really broad shouldered, and he's going to be a great player. And I think he's one of those guys that is like a really high floor addition who can fit with almost any staff, any team. I think a lot of people have looked at him as high as even 3 to the Sixers, like could be it potentially in play. I don't think that's likely, but it could happen. But I think he's going to come in and be a productive NBA player. There's questions about his athleticism. There's questions about his foot speed. There's questions about how many threes he makes off the bounce, but he's a heck of a player. And I think that he's definitely going to hear his name called in the top 5 or 6 picks tomorrow.
Do you think that general managers around basketball maybe watch the Pacers a little bit, or have just looked at recent trends and thought, okay, so it's great when we have a point guard who can beat guys off the dribble. And certainly if you're taking someone really high in the lottery, you want that player to have one-on-one skills. But I can think of players like LaMelo is a showstopper by himself. But like, are you going to make everybody else better? Are you going to be able to set up others? And then when the ball's not in your hands, and this is what really drives me nuts about the NBA, like, are you going to move and are you going to add to what the rest of the team is doing even after you pass the ball or you give it up? Like, is that maybe part of the thinking with Knuppel and the type of player that he can be?
Totally, because I think that like there's only a finite number of guys who are actual true needle movers at the top of the board that are going to have the ball in their hands in late clock scenarios every single game and like be able to make plays. So then like if you can't impact the game when the ball's not in your hands, like what do you bring to the floor?
Yeah.
And so like it makes it way easier to bench you. It makes it way easier to to recycle someone else into your rotation. And I think those questions about Khan are invisible. No one has those questions about him because of the type of off-ball prospect that he is, how high of an IQ he has, how he moves out the basketball is so important. And the flying knipples is a real thing that NBA people talk about as well too. So he's had some schooling in the right backyard in Wisconsin.
Well, and it drives me nuts because Steph Curry to me has showed us the blueprint for so long on how to be really effective once you pass the ball. And it just seems like so many players in the NBA aren't interested. Like Trae Young, he's not interested in doing that thing. Like you have this beautiful blueprint of moving without the ball and continuing to stir things up. And the Pacers are another good example. So it just kind of drives me nuts when these very talented playmaking point guards just aren't interested in doing that thing. So maybe that's where the character comes in with Knuppel that you're talking about. Like you can have the attitude and the drive to do some of those things.
I also think that playing that way is hard.
Okay,
A lot of guys, like it's hard to play that way with how many miles you have to put on your body. And I think one thing that I noticed with Khan, especially and just with the basketball in general, is like, do you cut hard even when you're probably not getting the basketball? And I think that's what Khan has really mastered, rescreening, his ability to just get other guys open sometimes as well too. And I still think a lot of teams really like those moments when Cooper Flag was out in the ACC tournament and Knuppel came in and just balled as that top option. So maybe he is that mix of we think he's a really high floor. Yeah, he's going to impact the game in all these other ways. There's also some sneaky upside here as well too if things coalesce. Because if Knuppel's your number 2 or number 3 option offensively, you're probably a really, really good offense.
So I really like that. And seeing someone as a number 1 option is certainly worthwhile, especially again, we're not talking about picking him at 30. We're talking about the top 5 or certainly the top 8 or top 10. So Cam Jones from Marquette is a really interesting player. And maybe it's because I get just enough Marquette and just enough Wisconsin basketball stuff to pop into my feed. I was actually surprised because I checked the latest Athletic mock draft today, and they have him going 35 to the Sixers. And I would have guessed higher because the people who like Cam Jones, like, really seem to like Cam Jones. Like, there seems to be a group, and maybe it's my algorithm being in Wisconsin, but I have seen people have the taken of the opinion that, like, he could be one of the better players in this draft, but they seem to be kind of the small, loud minority.
I think that's the small, loud minority. I think a lot of people like him. I'm not sure how many people love him. I think for sure tomorrow he's in the 30s range. Okay. I would be stunned if he drops out of that range. And I think the thing that I appreciate the most about Cam is the playmaking and his finishing at the rim with a bunch of different angles. You know, he isn't a high-level athlete, and so the ability to make some of those runners, floaters, awkward, offhand, off-foot layups, he mastered that at college, and he can take all of that into the next level, albeit the athletes are better, albeit the length is going to be a little bit different, but he's got all of that in his game already. You know, and I think his role is definitely going to change as well, too. Like, you're not bringing Cam Jones in to run your second unit, per se. I think you're going to see him play more off the ball like he did when he was playing next to Tyler Kolek. And I think you could see that percentage of his threes start to rise a bit. I think teams think that he is can be a 40% three-point shooter. I think that teams think he can be, you know, a guy that can give them something offensively as a driver as well. But I think some questions have still come up of, like, how elite of an athlete are you? And just defensively, like, what type of caliber of defense can we get from you on a night-to-night basis?
Or how many positions, if we're switching, like, how many positions can you guard up or down? Because, like, Cam Jones, and I don't do a lot of draft stuff, and I'm not the world's biggest Marquette watcher, but I think of a player like Mikal Bridges, right? Can you be a really trustworthy three-point shooter, and can you do the defense and the cuts and the things off the ball that we need? Is that kind of the goal or the idea if Cam Jones works out? Is that the thing that he's, like, supposed to be or maybe able to be?
Interesting. I haven't ever thought of Cam Jones and Mikal Bridges the exact same that way, but I don't think it's, like, insane. You know, I think for me, I kind of look at him as, like, I think he's going to maybe be more instant offense off the bench as a type of role. Like is he? How much Peyton Pritchard is he watching? Where it's just like, if you have to guard me the moment I cross half court, because I will pull this thing, and I'm going to initiate offense too at times as well. So I'm just kind of curious to see, like, how he continues to improve his off-ball actions. Like, he's a good cutter. I think the one thing that teams liked about him, that I've talked to certain teams about him, is, like, he played a ton of minutes at Marquette last year, so his motor is really, really good as well. Like, he had a huge responsibility, and teams tend to like those guys that have played at the top of the scouting report because it feels like they can scale down to a little bit smaller roles a lot easier. And there's something to that. Cam's played multiple different roles in college, and I think that's going to help him walk into any NBA franchise and be like, oh, wait, what do you need from me this time? Okay, I know that I've played that role. I can figure that out.
And I guess I thought he was taller, and it's crazy to say that 6'4" is short. 6'4" is kind of right in the middle, but, like, I thought longer, and the wingspan, I guess, isn't incredible at 6'6". So I think I was sizing him up to be a little bit longer and taller than I originally thought. Isaac Trotter's here, 24/7 Sports. Let's talk about Tonje. I don't know what to do with him. The couple of times that I watched him in person at the Kohl's Center, I was just so struck by his body control, because he's not the most athletic and he's not the fastest. But I thought of Chris Middleton because he was just so in command and comfortable operating at his pace. And I feel like that plays, right? Like, there has to be a path there. I see him as a second-round pick in most of these mocks. What have you heard and seen? I know he played pretty well at the Combine and showed pretty well.
Yeah, I think that Cam and, honestly, John are guys that could theoretically hear their names called a little bit earlier, just because of how, like, one, they played it well at the Combine, but two, just, like, the number of guys in college ranks that left and would come back to college for year two instead of staying in the NBA draft. Like, the pool is a little bit smaller. And so now, like, I don't think it'd be crazy if John Tonje is one of the first picks of the second round. I really don't. You know, I look at him, and some of the feedback on him is like, wow, that's a football player playing basketball.
Mm-hmm.
He's so strong and, like, just huge. And, like, he 2 C's thick. Like, he is just a big boy. Mm-hmm. And I think that the ability to that size, that strength, and the shooting is so real. Everybody loves that shooting. His base is really strong. You can get to some of those tough step backs. Like, you think he's off balance. He's really not, like, because he's so strong. And I just feel like that gives him such a high floor offensively. So I think he's in the 30s. You know, I'm not sure if he's at quite laterally athletic enough or quick enough maybe to defend some of those big wings, twitchy two guards, right? Like, is he going to be somebody that has to maybe like, are you going to have to try to sneak him on the fours at times or maybe some slow-footed threes? Like, that's maybe some of the questions about it. But offensively wise, that strength and that shooting ability, like people really, really trust that. And I think he's playing with a lot of confidence. And again, we talk about it with Cam, similar type of deal where he played multiple roles. At Colorado State, he wasn't the star. He was an off-ball player at that point. At Wisconsin, he got a lot more on-ball reps. So like he should be another guy that like, hey, you need a cheap role player to come in and know how to play right away. John kind of checks off a lot of those boxes.
And I know I think of what the Bucs did with Malcolm Brogdon once upon a time. Different players, but like that same concept, right? Of someone who's got a lot of experience and is weathered and is going to kind of come in and be able to give you something right away. I'm interested to see where he goes. I just think there are tools there that play, and I try not to be biased as a Wisconsin guy. Blackwell smelled around, and now he's coming back to Wisconsin. Did you hear anything from anything or from anyone about Blackwell as you've gotten ready for this draft, or is that kind of long gone now?
I think that a lot of people just want to see more growth with his jumper. That was like the one big thing that was the big feedback with him. Just continue to show growth as a jumper, and then just kind of continue doing what you're doing defensively. Because like I think a lot of people really love the energy, the fight, the physicality that he plays with. The perimeter size that he has is really intriguing. I look at Lou Dort, I look at Cason Wallace, I see some of the guys that OKC had, grown men defensively. Like John Blackwell is that type of caliber of athlete that you could theoretically, sick on somebody defensively. And as his skill continues to progress, I think teams are going to be really, really excited about him. But yeah, I mean, if he has the year people expect, I would not expect him back in Wisconsin for his senior season.
And I did really like watching him and Kamari McGee just blast people on the boards last year. I mean, they're just so strong. And watching both of them do that, like there were a lot of similarities there. I do, before I let you go, I want to ask you about the two Rutgers guards, because I remember talking before the season last year. I'm like, so is Rutgers going to be one of the top teams because they have these two stars? I know this is an old man way of viewing a draft pick, but shouldn't Rutgers have been a little bit better even for flashes? Like I know there were injuries, but like there was never even a couple week stretch where it's like, oh my God, these guys are stars. And maybe I'm an old man, but I would have liked to see that a little bit if we're spending a lottery pick on one of them.
I think that's totally fair. Now here's my rebuttal. Okay. When Dylan was great, Ace was not playing well. When Ace was great, Dylan was hurt. So they never got to see them both play well at the same time. And then Rutgers had one of the worst portal hauls I've seen. Their roster building was atrocious outside of those two type of players. So that's kind of like different ways to figure that out. But for me, I love Dylan Harper. I think Dylan is like one of my favorite guards that I've seen in college basketball. There'd be nights, it's late night, and he's playing Washington. It's like I'm supposed to go to bed. It's 12:30 in the morning, and he is just cooking teams. And I'm just like yelping from my couch watching the type of stuff that he does to guys. Like he gets everywhere he wants on the floor. I think that translates, but Rutgers absolutely feels like a missed opportunity to have, two of the top 5 picks, top 6 picks, maybe, and to miss the NCAA tournament and barely make the Big Ten tournament. Yeah, like that's a missed opportunity.
Would you have questions about Ace Bailey with some of the things that have it's just weird. That's all.
It's weird. It's weird. His representation does not have the greatest reputation in circles, right? It's kind of a thing where his agent is a little bit different. It's an Atlanta guy who Sharif Cooper's dad, right? Who was Sharif was a second-round pick a couple years ago. But yeah, the choosing not to work out for Philly was weird. Just the pre-draft process has been weird. I don't think Ace has been portrayed properly, really, honestly. I think he's a better kid than what he's being portrayed as right now. He's really young too, so he's one of the youngest players in this class. I think Ace is going to have a nice NBA career, but I think the KD comps that you see on Twitter are like absolutely crazy. It's like I think he's good. I think he's better than what some people have said right now. I think some of the pre-draft stuff has hurt his stock, so to speak. And even though he's a really talented guy, but I don't think he's Kevin Durant. Like that's kind of where I fall in that sphere of Twitter, where it's like either you're great or you're really, really bad.
I don't think anyone's going to hold it against you that you don't think that he's Kevin Durant at this moment in time. One of the weirder things is that he wants to go to Washington, but doesn't want to go to Philly. And look, I don't know that I totally buy into what Philly's been trying to do, but I know I definitely don't buy into Washington. So like, that's just a little weird. We'll see how it plays out. And obviously, what they look like once they get into the league. Enjoy the madness of tomorrow. I know you're super busy. Thanks for doing this kind of last minute, Isaac. Appreciate it.
Of course. No problem. Thanks for having me.
This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The engines are coming to life. It's race season again. Vintage, Superbikes, IndyCar, and more. For tickets and information, go to roadamerica.com. That's roadamerica.com.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
The Bill Michaels Show. Thank you to Isaac Trotter for doing that. And I hope TR, wherever they are, I said, I assume that TR is a man because only a man would be that persistent and obnoxious about demanding Marquette talk on a statewide Wisconsin show in the middle of the summer. But I started to respect the bit so much. I'm like, yeah, I think we can get ready for the NBA draft, talk Cam Jones. And I have to admit, I don't watch a ton of Marquette. I watch them a little bit in the winter when the Bucks or the Badgers aren't on, and when I have an off night, which isn't super often, but I watch a half dozen, games somewhere in that window a year. I thought Cam Jones was a little bit longer. I thought he was closer to 6'6", 6'4", and a pretty small wingspan. So I had Mikal Bridges in my a little inaccurate to not having the perfect image in my mind of him as a prospect, but that's why we had Isaac on. And I appreciate his time. Coming up in 3 or 4 minutes, that's all. We're going to get back into the Brewers. Spencer Michaelis is going to be here. He does the Brewer Fanatic podcast with Jack Stern. I'm sure you're familiar with both of their work if you waste away time on Twitter the way I do, especially Brewers Twitter. You can read his work at brewerfanatic.com as well. Really good with minor league stuff. But coming back, I want to talk about the night that Ortiz just had, the progress of Durbin, the Contreras problem in the middle of the order, and obviously Skenes and Bruchhaus. We're going to get into that on the other side. But first, a quick 2-minute update from Zach Kyle for no commercials. We'll be right back to start hour number 3 of the Bill Michaels Show with Brewers talk. Spencer Michaelis.
Well, there's a marquee pitching matchup today at American Family Field as the Brewers and Pirates close out their series. The game will feature Milwaukee's new star Jacob Mizrowski facing off against one of the best pitchers in baseball and Pittsburgh's Paul Skenes. Mizrowski threw 11 for Skenes' opening big league career, while Skenes leads the National League ERA of 1.85. Ortiz and Durbin looking forward to the matchup of the two hard-throwing righties.
I view it. So it's going to be a big challenge, and obviously, it's going to do so. Definitely up to the challenge.
Milwaukee comes into the game at a tie 8 games above 500, sitting a tie with St. Louis for second place in the NL Central, 2.5 games back. Division lead Chicago. After today, we're going to welcome in the European baseball, Colorado Rockies, for a 3-game series starting on Friday night. First pitch today is coming up at 4:10.
ABC of Wisconsin is the largest apprenticeship program in the state, with more than 2,000 active apprentices in 12 different skilled trades. In the ABC Apprenticeship Program, you earn while you learn on the job, get paid to go to class, and graduate with a job in your craft, but without the huge college debt. Explore 12 different construction trades in one spot at buildyourcareerwi.org, or just search online for ABC of Wisconsin.
Well, the NBA draft will get its first round underway tonight out in Brooklyn. Duke's Cooper Flagg going to be the first player off the board to Dallas. Milwaukee not expected to pick in tonight's first round. They have just one pick in the 2-round draft. That's going to come at number 47 overall, the second round, which will be held tomorrow night. And we're now less than a month out from the start of Packers training camp. Things get going July 23rd. With this Wisconsin Sports Zone Network update, I'm Zach Kyle, Print.
It's the Bill Michaels Show. Minus Bill today. He is at the Brewer game for an event, and it just worked out that that event is at the Brewer game, and it worked out that that event is on the same day of Mizrowski v. Skenes. So we'll continue to talk about that, especially once the game starts in the third hour, and Bill will be back tomorrow to tell us all about it. But we can talk about it in advance, and I also want to cover some of the bigger Brewers stories of the day and of this portion of the season. Joining us now on the live stream, a first-time guest, I believe, of the show and of the network, Spencer Michaelis of Brewer Fanatics. Spencer, thank you for doing this on your lunch break. How are you? What do we do with the recent play of Joey Ortiz? What should Brewers fans know, or what should we be thinking about, especially after last night?
I think this has kind of been coming for a while now. Not necessarily 2 homer games, but just generally striking the ball better. He's had better at bats. He'd been running into quite a lot of poor luck for the last month or so. And I think maybe we're starting to see some of the positive regression to the mean in terms of the results. So, yeah, I mean, I think you're seeing a little bit more of what he's capable of. We saw it last year too, and I think we're starting to see a guy who might be able to hold his own at short more than maybe.
So is the idea is offensively he's maybe a little inconsistent, but the highs can totally be a bottom of the order everyday player, and then he plays a great shortstop. Is that the idea of what he turns into at some point?
Yeah, I think that's basically what you're looking at. And we saw last May he had a really nice stretch, and before his neck injury, he was maybe even a better hitter than that. But I think that's kind of what you're looking at.
What about Durbin? His defense has come along, and he continues to surprise me offensively. I just wonder if he's not bringing pop, and Ortiz isn't doing consistently, and Frelick's not going to do it consistently, and Terang's not going to do it. Like, I just wonder how many bats like that they can have in their lineup. But I think you have to be pretty happy with the progress that Durbin's made, right?
Yeah, I would fall into the surprise category on that one
Yeah.
as well, especially the defense. I don't know where that came from. That has been a new development, and he has been good over there. But yeah, like you said, it's tough to have 4 guys in the lineup that you're not expecting power from, and that has shown up for the Brewers all season, where they've
So
just
what do
kinda
we
lacked
do with
that department.
Contreras? I don't want to call it the Contreras problem, but if he's not in the lineup today, of course, the day that this is coming up on the radio with the Brewers guest, so Haas is playing and hitting 9th, I think I saw. But Contreras mostly plays every day, and he hits in the middle of the order, but this hand injury just hasn't really allowed him to be effective. So talk about maybe what parts of his game have been limited by that hand injury, and kind of explain how we've got here with Contreras first before we talk about what comes next.
Sure. Yeah, so the bat speed of late has been picking back up, which means maybe he's starting to feel a little more comfortable with that finger that he's dealing with. But it's another thing, like hitting in the middle of the order. He's got, I believe, 6 home runs at the moment this deep into the season. Like
Weren't
that's
2 of them in
that's
one
another part of
game
the order
too?
where
Didn't
you're
he hit
really
2 of
not
them in
getting-
one game?
If they weren't, they were like back-to-back days or something. He had a little stretch of a hot run of homers, but yeah, it's just been, it hasn't been there offensively. The defense has actually stepped back up towards where it was his first full season with the Brewers, which was in a pretty good place, and he's throwing out a lot of runners. So overall, the value's been pretty good, but yeah, the bat hasn't been there, and it's concerning. And I'm glad he's getting a day off, I should say, because I think he's needed some extra days off to just try and build that in. I think he's fine playing through it, but he needs to not get a day off a month, which has basically been the stretch.
And the frustrating part is, like, Brewers fans at this point in the season, we love mapping, okay, if this guy gets healthy and this player comes out of a slump, like, we're trying to project what could be in a month or in 2 months. And the frustrating thing about Contreras is the nature of this injury. It's not something that's just going to fix itself. Even if he gets a day off every week, which would be much more than he's got the last couple of years, like, it's still a problem that's not going away. So I don't really know. And you can move him down the lineup, but then I don't know who you're going to move up. This is why I'm just calling it a problem, and I don't know how it's addressed or how it's fixed best within the context of this season.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could move Rhys Hoskins into that 4 hole, but he's been in a slump for a little while now. So yeah, you're right. I mean, the options aren't great, and they like to go left, right throughout the lineup. So that makes it a little more difficult as well. But yeah, I do think it's a bit of a problem offensively. I mean, he's overall been a good catcher, but it's just, you were kind of relying on him to be a legitimate middle of the order.
He's framing significantly above average. He's thrown out a ton of guys. Like, he's playing a really good catcher, but then, he's supposed to be that middle of the order guy, so it becomes a little trickier. Let's talk about Chad Patrick, because that's that final spot in the rotation. Where do you stand on Woodruff coming back and what type of player he is? Because I think many Brewers people just assume he's going to come back and take a spot and he's ready. And I don't know that that's for sure yet.
Yeah, I really want to see how he looks. I believe he has a rehab start now lined up for this weekend. And if it's in Nashville, we'll get StatCast data and we'll be able to see what type of velo he's throwing with and how the stuff looks. But early in his rehab, I thought the stuff looked like it was going to play when it got back, and it wasn't going to be the 97, 98 mile per hour fastball we'd seen before, but he was touching 95, sitting like 92, 93. Before the last couple of setbacks, he was back down to sitting in like the upper 80s, touching low 90s. And if that's where he is, I think that's going to be a really hard profile to make work in the big leagues right now. And so I really need to see. I think he's going to have 2 rehab starts they're expecting. If those look more like the early ones, then I think he probably is a better starter than Chad Patrick. But if not, they're going to have.
Is Logan Henderson a better option to take that spot in the rotation if they decide to do something with Chad Patrick?
I think if Woodruff is not ready or not able to take that spot, I could very easily see Henderson being the best option at that point. And maybe Patrick moves into that long relief type role where he might not need the extra secondary pitches, and he can kind of just go fastball cutter like he does as a starter. It might work a little bit.
It seems like over the last month, their high leverage relievers have been on a little bit more sustainable schedule, and they've looked really awesome. They've missed bats in a way that they weren't there for a little bit. Has last month shown us that McGill, Koenig, Uribe, and Mears, that's a 4-headed monster that this team can kind of ride and win games with, like we've seen the Brewers do in the past with their bullpen?
Yeah, I think so. And I think Aaron Ashby's putting himself in that conversation as well. He's been unbelievable since he came back in a bullpen role. So he hasn't necessarily gained that trust from Pat Murphy yet, I don't think. But results-wise and pure stuff-wise, there are very few that have as good a stuff as he does. And I feel like he should be put in that type of conversation at least.
He needs more routine work? Because the control can wax and wane. He can be a little erratic. I feel like Murph is so intent on getting Uribe an inning, getting Mears an inning. Like, if he took that same approach with Ashby, do you think he'd be a little bit more consistent, a little more controlled?
I could see that helping him for sure. I mean, it is tough when he's had multiple stretches where he's gone over a week without an outing, and that can be pretty difficult. So, yeah, I think part of it is that he goes longer, obviously 2-3 innings at times, and that can lead to a little bit more rest built in. But I would still think you'd want to get him work on a semi-regular basis just to keep.
You don't trust him because he's a little erratic, but then he doesn't work, which I don't think helps with him being erratic. And that's like, I want Aaron Ashby to work so bad, but then sometimes I watch him and I'm like, oh man. And I can just feel Murph stewing in the dugout. Like, I got to deal with this guy. Before we get to Miz and Skenes, what do we do with DL Hall at this moment in time?
Yeah, that is probably the toughest question on the pitching staff. Everyone's kind of focused on Chad Patrick, but Hall has not been very good, and he has an option left. I wonder if they're trying to save the option year and be able to keep it into next season. But I could see a scenario where he's somebody who gets traded at some point over the next month and a half or so. Just maybe a team sees a chance to give him a starting spot. He started throwing a cutter and a two seam, so now he's got all three fastballs. Maybe a team who has more leeway can give him an opportunity to do that. But right now, he's not really getting strikeouts. The walks are too high. The contact's pretty hard in most cases, and it's not awful. And there's been worse relievers in the Brewers bullpen in the past, but it's getting to a point where it's kind of tough to envision him making it when you're looking at the best bullpen.
A close to even strike to walk ratio is, you just won't play. It won't work. And I think it came to a head on Sunday against the Twins. It's like, you just can't only retire one batter there. I think it was a pipe dream to expect him to get the final 3 innings and get the save. I'm sure the Brewers would have loved that, but I'm sure they thought, well, we'll get at least 2 and then we'll figure out the 9th depending on the score. And then he gets 1 batter, and it really threw the rest of that game out of whack. I think that was very frustrating, and you could almost see it in Murph's face too. So a little more time will tell on DL Hall. It kind of seems like maybe there's only room for one of Ashby and Hall to fill that role in the bullpen. So we'll see. One last thing, because you mentioned walks and strikeouts. So before we do Miz and Skenes, what have you seen from Quinn Priester? I thought he got snake bit a little bit on Sunday with some soft contact that obviously hadn't been happening in his previous starts, but I didn't see this version of him when they acquired him. This has been a pleasant surprise.
No, I didn't see this version of him when they acquired him at all. I wasn't a big fan of the trade. I still wouldn't say I love the trade by any means, but I definitely see the vision at this point. The addition of the cutter has helped him kind of stave off some of the platoon issues that he was dealing with early on, because he can now have a counter to lefties. But he gets a ton of ground balls. Speaking of the strikeouts to walk, he's starting to strike more batters out. The walks have been going down consistently over his time here, and it's a pretty simple approach of just throw your best pitches as much as possible and throw them hard and throw them over the plate and let the defense and the ground balls do the work. And it's going really well. And it does help that obviously he pitches in front of a very good Brewers defense behind him that's kind of built.
Well, and I think that was the thought process maybe with the Montas or certainly the Savali trade too. It's like, well, you're not great, but that stuff can work with the defense behind you. The problem is they gave up a ton for Priester. They gave up a haul that would indicate they think there's something more there. And wouldn't you know it, there has been something more there. So that's made me feel a little bit better about the trade. Skenes and Mizorowski today. Does Miz have better pure stuff than Skenes, do you think?
Yeah, I would give him a slight edge, at least at the top of his repertoire. He has better. His best pitches are better than Skenes' best pitches. Skenes has a much deeper repertoire. He throws like 7 pitches at this point, all versions of fastball, splitter, and a changeup. I mean, he's got every pitch you can think of at this point, and all of them are pretty good. So I guess in terms of how deep it is, I would probably give the nod to Skenes, but at the top, Miz's stuff probably is better just pure.
Doesn't make him a better pitcher,
ability.
right? That's a separate conversation, which you give the nod to Skenes. Although Miz through his first 2 starts, like it's hard to argue that's just such a small sample. Have you been surprised one way or another by what you've seen from Miz at the major league level so far? Because this is something we've wanted for a long time. And then when we finally got it, it was like with Yoho, it's like, okay, watch this not go well. And now we're all going to feel like jerks for demanding this, but it's gone pretty close to perfect.
Yeah, I mean, it's gone better than I think anyone, including Miz, could have imagined it going so far. The biggest surprise for me has been the command being not even like as erratic as I was expecting it to be. And the walks aren't in a bad spot. Obviously, he had 4 in the first game. I thought one of them was he lost command completely for a batter, but the rest of them were pretty competitive at bats. He was around the zone, and guys just had some tough takes, some pitches that were close, just barely missing. That's been the most surprising to me, and that was the thing that he improved upon the most in AAA this year, and you could see why he was getting the opportunity was because he was throwing more strikes, but it's still been a bit of a surprise to see him this consistently, not just in the zone, but even side to side. Like if William Contreras is setting up outside, he's not missing inside. He's mostly missing to the same side of the plate as the target is, and that's just not something he had going for him. Isn't surprised so far. I still think we're probably going to get a game at some point here where it goes a little off the rails in terms of command, and people probably have to be prepared for that. But at this point, through the first 2, it's been unbelievable.
We just hope it's not today. Like, just do it at a different time on a random Tuesday night game when the ballpark isn't full and the baseball world isn't watching. What can we expect from you and Jack at Brewer Fanatic about this game, but then later this week?
Yeah, we will be recording the Brewer Fanatic podcast Thursday night. It will release on Friday morning. It should be on all platforms, YouTube, everywhere. So we will talk about this start. We'll talk about all the other games that happened in last week, and we'll also have some minor league content for everyone.
Awesome. And we love the minor league player breakdowns. Hell yeah. Spencer, I appreciate it. Enjoy the game today. Thank you for the time.
Yep. Thanks for having me.
Spencer Michaelis, Brewer Fanatic, and you should follow him on Twitter. An excellent, very informative follow. And if you are someone that loves getting into the weeds on minor league players and prospects, he is absolutely your guy and does that just about as well as anyone. Although Kurt's, they have dueling minor league prospect series right now. Kurt's been doing that over at the JS, the Journal Sentinel. But Spencer watches just about every level of the organization. Not really sure how he does it, but he does. So Spencer Michaelis, we appreciate his time. Let's take a break now so we have a little bit of time in our next segment before we get to Sam Bruchhaus of Sumer Sports at the bottom of this hour at 12:35. It's the Bill Michaels Show. And this segment of the Bill Michaels Show, once again, brought to you by Pella Windows and Doors. And Bill can speak to this a lot more personally than I can, but I have worked many a day at Bill's palatial estate and studio and can tell you firsthand that I do love popping those things open, feeling the fresh breeze. They are nice, they are smooth, and they are secure, which I know Bill has told you about before. So if you go to PellaWI.com, they have all sorts of tools to kind of help set you on the path if you're looking maybe later this summer, or maybe you're looking ahead, okay, next spring we want to do it. Well, go sniff around and see what they have for you, and you can start that process, and they can help kind of line you up with what makes sense for you, whether it's the windows or the doors, whatever sizes and shapes. No job is too big or too small, and they can absolutely help you. So PellaWI.com for more. We're going to come back, a couple final Brewers thoughts, and then we're going to switch back over to the NFL at 12:35 with Sam Bruchhaus of Sumer Sports.
Covering Wisconsin sports like a blanket, this is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
And now for the Pella play-by-play, here's Jeff Levering.
Thanks, Gina Della from Pella. What a beautiful day to have new windows and doors installed.
Every day is beautiful because Pella installs year-round during all seasons.
And as Pella goes into another windup, it's so hard to guess that next pitch. The customizations seem endless.
And it doesn't have to be super expensive. Pella has a product line for every budget.
And if it is time for a major upgrade, rest easy by scoring no interest and no payments for up to 2 years.
Pella also provides a free in-home consultation, which includes a no-obligation quote.
That's always a great play because working with one of Pella's design experts is such a wonderful, no-pressure get-together. I know this from experience.
With a range of affordable options and products assembled in the USA, you can get the look you want at a price you can afford.
And there's no reason to wait with this incredible deal going on.
Get no interest and no payment for up to 2 years.
Visit PellaWI.com today.
Certain restrictions apply in 6/30/2025.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Sometimes I get a good feeling, yeah.
It's the Bill Michaels Show. Mine is Bill today. He'll be back tomorrow. I apologize because I, like you, am a listener of sports radio. I just also happen to do it as a job. And there is nothing worse than when you turn on your show and you're like, I can't wait to hear about the Brewers from the perspective of my favorite host. And then you turn it on and it's me and not Bill. So he'll be back tomorrow. And he'll be back tomorrow. He'll be able to give you a firsthand account of what he sees at American Family Field today because he's there to see Miz versus Skenes. I'm hoping that Miz doesn't have his first hiccup as a major leaguer today. That would be a major league bummer. Now, if Skenes sucks, that would be fine. Who cares about the Pirates anyways, right? I do think it's funny that the center of the baseball world is Milwaukee v. Pittsburgh today. I don't know if that's enough to crack Cowherd's show or to lead Sports Center or like around the horn tonight, but it might make the rundown later on in the show, maybe a clip or maybe a mention, which is more a lot of times than baseball can get. So we'll take what we can get, baseball fans, baseball diehards. At the beginning of the hour, we were talking a little bit about, or maybe this was in the 11 o'clock hour. God, now I don't even remember. It was the 11 o'clock hour. It was over an hour ago now. This is how Bill's always like, the show's flying by. And most of the time I'm like, it feels like 4 hours because I'm producing, right? I'm not white knuckling the microphone, firing takes into the universe for 4 hours. This was 90 minutes ago now that we talked about the story that Pablo Torre and Mike Florio teamed up to break some evidence of collusion between NFL owners, and they came in possession of basically, I think it was 61 pages of PowerPoint slides and transcripts from a hearing and text messages and calls between NFL owners and the league and some of their intermediary, I would say, committees. I think it was it the League Advisory Committee or something, where basically the league will push out ideas and messages towards the owners and say, hey, we'd really like to not do more guaranteed contracts. Of course, you are free to make your own decisions, right? Which kind of keeps them legally, at least, out of trouble, even though it's pretty cut and dry and clear what the league is trying to do. But what I said after kind of sharing some of these details with you is, I mean, collusion is illegal and we don't want that, but I like that the NFL doesn't do fully guaranteed contracts. I want the players to be compensated for their performance and for their accomplishments. I don't want Anthony Rendon's in the NFL. I don't want Paul George's, where it's like, well, he kind of stinks and doesn't play a whole lot and seems more focused on his podcast. Well, good luck. He's under contract for 4 more years, max contract slot. No, I don't want that. And American sports fans don't want that. We don't want to turn on games of spoiled millionaires and billionaires who can miss games when they want. Who, you know what I mean? Like, there needs to be a good mix of player empowerment and organizational empowerment. And I think the NFL is certainly the league where the owners and the league and the shield wields the most power. And I think that's appealing to a lot of American sports fans in a way that Anthony Rendon still got 12 years left on this contract. He sucks. He's mailing it in. It's clear. And we have no recourse. He's just going to sit there and collect money for the next 12 years because it's fully guaranteed. Like, I like that the NFL wields it a little bit. Rockin' Rick texts in on this subject. He says, there are 17-year-olds that come to college. I truly believe they're creating an army of Deshaun Watsons. They're paying 17-year-olds to come to college. Yeah. That's going to be something that I think will be an adjustment for many folks, that when professional athletes first become professionals, or at least at the professional level, of course, they're pros in college now, but let's just say college versus pros. When they get to the pros, they'll be used to making money, and they'll be used to calling their own shots and making demands. Ace Bailey, who's one of the 2, superstar lottery level guards we talked about with Isaac Trotter, played at Rutgers. Like, he's saying, I don't want to go to the Sixers. I don't want to go to the Hornets. Don't draft me. I'm not working out for you. It's like, hey, man, like, you're a college kid. Where do you get off? Same with Shedeur. Like, look at the difference between that and Shedeur Sanders. Shedeur Sanders was, I think, even if teams weren't as high on him as the rest of the world, was the 2nd or 3rd best quarterback in a draft. Bo Nix, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, was the 4th or 5th best quarterback in his draft, and he was a top 15 pick. So don't tell me that Shedeur Sanders wasn't a 1st or 2nd round talent. There's plenty of quarterbacks that aren't 1st or 2nd round talents that go in the 1st or 2nd round because they're quarterbacks. But Shedeur Sanders was a little stuck up, right? There was a little air of arrogance and entitledness. And teams said, you know what, screw you. Not interested. And interestingly enough, I don't know how far he would have fallen in the draft if not for the Browns, who, ironically enough, are the team that gave Deshaun Watson that fully guaranteed contract. If the Browns, and I assume Browns ownership, stepped up and said, no, we're going to take him, God only knows how far he would have fallen. Is that collusion? Or is that a league that has, I think, clear values, probably is the wrong word, but standards and practices about the way that they operate? And nobody is bigger than those standards and practices. Now, do you want owners colluding to keep salaries at a sprint? No. That is obviously against the rules. We don't like that. But I like that in the NFL, no individual player is bigger than the league. No player is bigger than the sport. And in the NBA, that's not true. And in baseball, that's not true. And while I like NBA superstars and watching them, it's fun, how often do they actually live up to the billing? How many regular season games do they miss? How many regular season games do they mail it in? And then how many postseason games do they just not show up or get injured or not perform at a high level? Like, yeah, a superstar-driven league is great until your superstars that are on the marquee can't deliver what they need to deliver to keep that league going. This text says, do you think that's why the NFL is more popular than the NBA and Major League Baseball? Because they have to keep playing hard even after they sign contracts to avoid being cut, and it makes for a more entertaining game? The NBA regular season is a joke anymore. That's just my opinion. Look, I think the NFL, first and foremost, is the most popular league because football is the most popular sport. And I don't know that it's reasonable to say, well, the NFL's king because their contracts aren't guaranteed. I think that's part of the appeal, but it really starts and mostly ends with we like football more than we like those other sports. So they have that advantage. It's like they're starting the race with a 100-meter lead because their sport is better. But I also think to appeal to the mass of American sports fandom, I want the player to be able to fight for their money and get their money, but I also want the organization to be able to say, no, you make too much. You're not good enough. You don't play enough. We don't like you. We're going to move on. We're going to cut you because your whole deal isn't guaranteed. I think the Packers and the Steelers do it the way that I would like most teams to do it. Guarantee that first year, big signing bonus, so the player isn't going hungry and isn't going without, and then keep playing at a high level, working hard, stay committed, and you'll see the rest of the money. And if you don't, you probably won't, and we will cut you. It's not something that really exists in the other leagues. And I think that's part of it. I think it's part of the appeal. Most of the appeal is we just like football more. And it's a schedule, 17 games, a lot more urgency once a week instead of 82 or 162. It's just a lot less urgency and a lot less drive to rush to our TV to watch. We can talk more about this, but I want to talk more X's and O's. The latest goings on in the NFL. Sam Bruchhaus, friend of show, he's been on with Bill a couple of times. He's been on with me in the afternoon. He was on with us at the Super Bowl. Former linebacker at Tulane as well, and the world's nicest guy. He's going to join us next on the Bill Michaels Show. Do not go anywhere.
Covering Wisconsin sports like a blanket. This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
At Potawatomi, where ways to win are endless, another chance to capture epic cash and prizes comes Friday, June 27th. It's the season finale blockbuster drawings. Watch your entries from enchanted spins, unreal treasures, and boundless bounty come together for drawings where $300,000 in cash and prizes is there for the taking. Be there to win your share. June 27th only at Potawatomi Casino Hotel, Milwaukee. More info online. Must be 21 years old to play.
Bill Michaels here. Are your two wheels revved up? Because here it comes. The Big River Rally where the river meets the road. It rolls into La Crosse on June 27th and 28th. Join us for a weekend packed with action. Stunt shows, a killer bike show, food trucks, all kinds of awesome vendors. Friday, Rod's River Run with Texas Hippie Coalition lighting up the stage that night. Then Saturday is the Big River Rally Ride. Miles and miles of pure freedom. Then Saturday night, Drowning Pool rocks the house. Grab your tickets right now. BigRiverRally.com. That's BigRiverRally.com. And I'll see you there.
Bill Michaels will resume in 5 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 4 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
It's the Bill Michaels Show. Bill will be back tomorrow. He's at the Brewer game today. Skenes versus Mizorowski. What a windfall for Bill. And for lacrosse, it's lacrosse day at the ballpark. Why am I the only one not there? I'm excited to watch. We can react a little bit live in the final hour of the show. We've been picking at the NFL a bit, and no better NFL guest. One of my favorite people to have on, Sam Bruchhaus of Sumer Sports, former college linebacker at Tulane as well. And I just told you off the air, Sam, we've been picking a bit at this Pablo Torre and Florio story. And I watched the full thing this morning. I'm not for collusion because that is wrong. I do like that the NFL is a little different from the other leagues in that not all the money's guaranteed, and there is some pushback between player and organization. Like, I think a certain amount of that is healthy. Would you agree with that or not?
I think it depends.
Okay.
I think the uniqueness between the National Basketball Association, in which, you know, you have 15 players and two-way players on your roster, and virtually every position can have the same impact. You know, Steph Curry, who is 6'2", 6'3", technically can have the same impact on a game as Nikola Jokic, who's, you know, 100 pounds heavier and a foot taller or something like that. That's just not the case in football. In football, quarterbacks are the reason why a majority of these teams are successful. And when we're living in a world where that's the case, I think there's an argument to be made that their contracts should look radically different than everyone else's. And I think the crux of the Pablo Torre piece, which I am a big fan of Pablo Torre, always have, and I really love his kind of new approach to journalism and the way he's structuring it. But all that to be said, his point is basically that a lot of teams could have had an edge had they offered a guaranteed contract to Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
And they just decided not to. And I think that there's questions of whether that leads to a more competitive league. And there's an argument that it really doesn't. And there's an argument that it didn't. He ends up remaining in a Ravens uniform, goes on to MVP seasons, and they've been excellent the last couple of years. And realistically, he's getting paid substantially less than he should. That's not good for the players. There's an argument that's not good for the fans. And frankly, if you're an owner who wants to spend money, it's probably not good for you either, if you're getting peer pressured into this stuff. So that's kind of my thoughts. I think that the CBA is generated to improve competitiveness. And in this case, at least the reporting by Pablo Torre and Mike Florio that was not had.
Don't you think that Mike Florio, like, I've met him once briefly in Vegas at the Super Bowl. I don't know him at all, and I am happy for him. This seems like there could not be a more perfect story. I feel like he's been barking up trees like this, and he's been a dog chasing this car forever, and he finally caught it. So just on a human level, as I listen to him talk and I read his reporting on this, like, I don't know that there's a happier person on planet Earth than Mike Florio this week. And I know that really doesn't have anything to do with anything. It kind of makes me laugh, and I am genuinely happy for the guy. You know what I mean?
Right. And I think it goes back to kind of talking about the type of journalism that Mike Florio has done, where he is an insider. He has been around the league for years, and it's great to see him have a, passion project, something that he's been talking about a lot, come to fruition through someone like Pablo Torre, who is kind of taking both an old school and a new school approach to journalism. I could talk about the media and what it means all the time, but I think this is good for fans too. I think we can ask for a little bit more of our owners now that this piece is out, specifically if there comes another scenario in which a team doesn't want to pay an MVP level quarterback, and then all of a sudden no one can explain why he just ended up on a lesser deal with his same team.
Well, and I think Nick Wright brought this up a couple weeks ago too. Like, we have a lot of insiders and people who traffic in information, and that is important. There seems to be less journalism, and this is how Florio, I believe, talked about it in the pod with Pablo, digging and getting the stuff out that they don't want out there, right? I think that's taken a little bit of a backseat. And look, I'm not a journalist, so I can't sit up here and say that people should or shouldn't do this because it's not my realm. But I am entertained by that. We talked before the draft, not to completely take a left turn, but you were a little hesitant on the idea of Matthew Golden, where the Packers were picking, and I've seen you talk a lot about wide receivers in the last few weeks, specifically the stats that are meaningful and what those statistics, those sticky stats, as you call them, can tell us about a wide receiver. So let's talk about Matthew Golden, this Packers wide receiving room, and what Packers fans should know and think about this summer as we get ready for the season.
Right. I think there are a lot of people in this kitchen for the Packers. And I think the key element you want to keep an eye on in training camp, and then obviously once the games are played, is target share. If rumors or observations start coming out of training camp that Matthew Golden or Savion Williams or any of these young pass catchers that they now have on the Packers after the draft and free agency are starting to accumulate, 25 to 30% of targets, and a quarterback's really falling in love with them, that's a pretty sticky stat. I'm not saying it's the most sticky when it's coming from rumors, but what I will say is when a player plays a full season and gets the requisite amount of snaps and then does so in the next year, he's probably going to receive the same target share. You can look at a guy like Puka Nacua, who very early on in his career all of a sudden was a target earner for Matthew Stafford. Sure enough, last year turns out to be an excellent target share guy again. That's one of the stickiest stats across football, across positions. And I think that's what Packer fans should really tune into about Matthew Golden or any of these wide receivers, particularly as some of them continue to develop, is if they are getting a maximum amount of target share, which we really didn't see any of the Packers wide receivers get last year, that could indicate that they will be a true wide receiver one and the true wide receiver one, at least, that the Packers have been looking for several years now.
And I think Lindsay talked about that with us at the Super Bowl too. She's looking for players who are going to earn targets or demand targets, be so good or so dominant that the ball just finds them. And that's, I think, that sticky statistic or that sticky idea that transfers from year to year or team to team or situation to situation. So the Packers have a new team president, and he announced, as he's ushering in and now replacing Mark Murphy, who's that guy's the de facto owner. He's not going to extend Goody or LaFleur. They have 2 years left. So next offseason is going to be the inflection point because he won't do a lame duck. I think Matt LaFleur and Brian Gutekunst are both very good, and you could do a lot worse. I don't know if they're among the best of the best. Where do you stand on kind of the two triggermen for the Packers this offseason?
I think Matt LaFleur is probably one of the best coaches in the league.
Okay.
I thought he was a dark horse, really, for Coach of the Year last year, and I thought his odds should have been substantially better even going into the late season. You look at the team that Gutekunst has put together, and he's immensely consistent in his approach, and that's paid off time and time again. Obviously, a lot does lean on Jordan Love's progression and performance, but even when he was down last year, the Packers were still very competitive with Malik Willis. I think Matt LaFleur is in that top tier of head coaches where I can expect the Packers to figure out 9 or 10 wins. And talking about this more generally as we look at the offseason, I think that's kind of the key to being a head coach in this league. There's so much variance, and variance is increasing as tighter restrictions come on player contracts and as players, move a little bit more than they used to in the older days. And if you have a coach that will get you to 8 or 9 wins, I'm talking the Mike Tomlins of the world, the Sean McVays of the world, I think Matt LaFleur is in that class.
I think he has to be. I think people were most impressed by his work with Malik Willis last year, which is great. I would like to see some high-level collaboration between him and Jordan Love, the way that we saw at the end of Jordan Love's rookie year. So we'll see this year. Not to get really granular just on the Packers, because I do have 1 or 2 big picture NFL questions, but the Packers have been selecting O-linemen who are taller, leaner, better in space, more athletic. And then this offseason, they sign Aaron Banks and then they draft Anthony Belton in the 2nd round, who are just massive human beings. Do you make anything of that? I thought that to be very interesting, but it's very insular maybe to the Packers.
So I think just more generally, I think that the Packers viewed their offensive line as a strength last year, but something that could continue to be upgraded. And I think that's what both of those moves made. I think they probably just selected the people that they thought were the best available in Belton and picked up Banks for a contract that was a little shocking, obviously. But he's a player who has been part of an immensely good offensive line. And when it comes down to it, the amount of variance that you can diminish in the running game is very key. In our Sticky Stats series that me and Lindsey Rhodes did, you can find that wherever podcasts can be found or at Sumer Sports on YouTube. The running game and the offensive line is a black box when it comes to year-to-year prediction. I think anything you can do to bolster that through depth, which I think the Packers have done, and through improvements, which I think they seek to do, is a good and consistent way to improve or at least maintain your level of competitiveness. And I think that is why they added, in particular, Belton and Banks, because they want to maintain that good rushing game with Josh Jacobs and some of the other running backs that they have.
So last year, the North went Lions, Vikings, Packers. Lions lost some coordinators, some O-linemen. The Vikings are switching quarterbacks. The Packers mostly are staying the same, certainly more than those other 2 rivals in the division. And then there are the Bears. How would you predict the division at this moment in time?
So the way that I like to approach this is a little bit what I call basketball brained. I just want to know who has stars.
Okay.
And so the Lions have stars at multiple positions, particularly if Aiden Hutchinson is available. They have 2 star safeties. They have a couple star linebackers who have been very productive. And then across the offensive line, obviously we've now lost Ragnow and Zietler from last year, but they have Penei Sewell coming back. They have Decker at the other tackle position, Amon-Ra St. Brown. I think there's just too much talent on that team to see a major regression. I think the real battle is going to be between the Packers, who, frankly, I believe a little bit more in than the Vikings this year.
Okay.
Last year, me and Sean Syed, who I believe has been on this show, is a great analyst with us at Sumer Sports. We had a little friendly agreement about the Lions. I think what we're getting into this year is about the Vikings, particularly where J.J. McCarthy will sit in efficiency rankings. EPA per play is the one we like to use. I think it's going to be difficult for him to get over like a rookie season like Bo Nix had last year. And I don't think that is the projection that a lot of people are looking at it as. You really look at what Sam Darnold ended up doing last year, and he didn't really have that great of a season. He was, sub-optimal, sub-average in EPA per play. That offense ended up struggling at the end of the year. Obviously, they lose Christian Darrisaw at the beginning of the year, the middle of the year, and then O'Neal goes down at the very, very tail end of the year. But they're looking to improve that quarterback position. I think it's going to be really hard to do so with a rookie or second year that has never played and is coming off of an injury quarterback. And I think that the Vikings may shockingly regress a little bit. Do I still think they're probably are above team with that defense? Yes, I do. But I think I have to go with the Packers in the 2 slot, the Vikings with their uncertainty at quarterback at the 3 slot, and then the Bears as an emerging team, but with a lot of uncertainty, particularly across that offensive line and in the wide receiver room. I think they comfortably slot into the 4th spot. So I do think they have a lot of upside.
I was on with Matt Collar last week, and we were just talking about J.J. McCarthy. He could have what's thought to be a very traditionally good first year as a starting quarterback, but the way that Vikings team is constructed, like anything less than 10 wins is going to be considered a disappointment, even if McCarthy shows pretty well in his first season of actually starting the NFL, which is an interesting situation. Lastly, what do you think of Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers? What interests you in that situation?
Look, Aaron Rodgers was not a very good quarterback last year as it pertains to the metrics. The one thing he was okay at was lofting the ball up to Devontae Adams and Garrett Wilson deep and letting them make plays. That was kind of, the scenario for success for Russell Wilson last year, who was substantially better than Aaron Rodgers, and that's really saying something. I think this is going to go back to an old school running offense. I think Arthur Smith's offense is going to look substantially more like it did when he was with the Titans, or even so rather than it looked like with the Falcons or last year with the Steelers. I think Caleb Johnson out of Iowa is going to be a major part of this offense. And frankly, I don't think Rodgers is going to have the same keys to the Maserati, or in this case, it may be more like a Mazda. We'll see what ends up happening, but I don't think he's going to have the keys to the offense the way that he did with the Jets last year. I think this is going to be a Mike Tomlin and Arthur Smith-led offense, and I think they're going to implement their way to continue approaching it through zone running, heavy run game, heavy offensive line, maybe some play action. I don't think we're going to see the shotgun and let the clock run down and try to piece together the defense like Aaron Rodgers attempted to do last year.
I think that would be smart. I think that would be good for Rodgers, but I think that would have been good for Rodgers, 4 or 5 years ago, and he hasn't always accepted it with open arms. Maybe he does this year. He seems to be very at peace. You listened to him yesterday on McAfee. Like it seems like he's like almost, this is a celebration of football in Pittsburgh from half an hour. So maybe he, welcomes it with arms wide open, not to, quote Creed, who he really likes. Check out Sam's work. The podcast, the Sticky Stats series, is really good with him and Lindsay. Sam, I know you are on location. You have a wedding down south in your home and native lands more. So enjoy your time down there. Thanks for doing this.
Appreciate it, Grant.
Sam Bruchhaus, Sumer Sports, very appreciative of him. Outstanding analyst, and his podcast series with Lindsay is really good. He said the same thing about the wide receivers that Lindsay did when she was on this show. She did my show too, if you I know not all of you listened to that, but she was on with Bill and talked about the same thing as it pertained to the wide receivers, right? Wide receivers that will demand targets. Who's going to get open and make plays with the frequency and with the effectiveness that the ball is it has to come their way, even if it's not schemed up that way. I think that's something that we missed a little bit last year. Hopefully we see that this year, but then again, they have so many cooks in the kitchen, it might be difficult, at least early on, for one of these players to separate themselves in such a way. Hopefully multiple of them do. Right, we'll see how it plays out early on in the year. We're closing in on first pitch, Skenes and Mizorowski, so we'll talk about that in the final hour of the show and kind of circle back and pick at some things that we've already discussed. It's the Bill Michaels Show. We'll be back to wrap up hour number 3 next.
Ready? This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
And now for the Pella play-by-play, here's Jeff Levering.
Thanks, Gina Della from Pella. What a beautiful day to have new windows and doors installed.
Every day is beautiful because Pella installs year-round during all seasons.
And as Pella goes into another windup, it's so hard to guess that next pitch. The customizations seem endless.
And it doesn't have to be super expensive. Pella has a product line for every budget.
And if it is time for a major upgrade, rest easy by scoring no interest and no payments for up to 2 years.
Pella also provides a free in-home consultation, which includes a no-obligation quote.
That's always a great play because working with one of Pella's design experts is such a wonderful, no-pressure get-together. I know this from experience.
With a range of affordable options and products assembled in the USA, you can get the look you want at a price you can afford.
And there's no reason to wait with this incredible deal going on.
Get no interest and no payment for up to 2 years.
Visit PellaWI.com today.
Certain restrictions apply in 6/30/2025.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
The Bill Michaels Show. Got about a minute or two here before we'll take a break. We'll get Zach's final update of the show. Then we'll be just a couple minutes away from Paul Skenes v. Jacob Mizorowski, which I'm looking forward to watching. I wish it would have started an hour ago, or I wish it would have been last night so then we could talk about it and react to it today. The last time that I had to watch the end of the Brewer game, because my show is on at 4. If you're not familiar, so I produce Bill's show, but then on a lot of these same stations, I do the evening drive show from 4 to 6. And the last time that my time slot was game 2 against the Cubs last week, when the Cubs are mounting that comeback, and then the bases were loaded in the 8th, and then in the 9th, Trevor McGill, and there's runners on, and I'm trying to host a show. I'm just trying to do my job. Well, of course, talking about the Brewers without losing my mind and making absolutely no sense when the game's on next to me. So I'll be able to watch a little bit of the start of this game, and we can have some thoughts and talk a little bit about it. This does feel like the more that we hype it up and the more that we talk about what an incredible matchup this is going to be, the more likely it seems where, like, watch this game go over the 6.5 or the 7.5 or wherever it closes. Like, watch both of these pitchers just have an off day. It almost seems like we're due for it, right? This segment of the Bill Michaels Show brought to you by Robert's Specialty Meats. They're your hometown butcher, Sunset Drive in Waukesha. And what I would recommend, if you got a cookout or you have friends coming over, or you want to celebrate on Friday or Saturday night, the end of the work week, and you want to throw something on the grill, just go in there without an idea. I can tell you about the chicken skewers, or the ribs on stick, or the Al Capone roast, but I don't want you to go in there with your mind taken. Just go in, smell the smells, and walk around, because they have countless options. Get something that speaks to you, and you can look online as well. Robert's Specialty Meats, Waukesha.com, right there. Sunset Drive in Waukesha. If you're not in, well, stop in and you go to a Brew game or your way home. Final hour of the Bill Michaels Show coming up next. This is Wisconsin Sports Zone Update. Well, there's a marquee pitching matchup today at American Family Field as the Brewers and Pirates close out their series. The game will feature Milwaukee star Jacob Mizorowski facing off against one of the best pitchers in baseball.
here, while Skenes leads the National League in ERA at 1.85. Looking forward to the matchup of the two hard-throwing righties.
I feel so it's gonna be a big challenge.
Milwaukee comes into the game at a 6-9 games, 500, sitting in tie with St. Louis for second place in the NL Central, 2.5 games back of division-leading Chicago. After today, Brewers going to welcome in the worst team in baseball, Colorado Rockies, for a 3-game series starting on Friday night. First pitch today is coming up at 1:10.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
When a company only does business in Wisconsin, that's Wisconsin Strong. Rural Mutual provides all lines of insurance, including commercial, farm, home, and auto. And your premiums stay right here to keep Wisconsin strong. Local agents, local underwriters, local claims adjusters.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
Well, the NBA draft will get its first round underway tonight out in Brooklyn. Duke's Cooper Flagg going to be the first player off the board to Dallas. Milwaukee not expected to pick in tonight's first round. They have just one pick in the 2-round draft. That's going to come at number 47 overall of the second round, which will be held tomorrow night. And we're now less than a month out from the start of Packers training camp. Things get going July 23rd. With this Wisconsin Sports Zone Network update, I'm Zach Heil, Print.
Good day and welcome. Hour number 3 of the Bill Michaels Show just concluded, which means we're starting hour number 4, which is what I meant to say. Paul Skenes, Jacob Mizorowski will begin their matchup here in about 10 minutes. William Contreras not in the lineup today, and we talked with Spencer Michaelis about an hour ago about this William Contreras problem, and I think it's a little bit of a problem because he just hasn't been the same hitter. Been limited by his hand. The bat speed is down. The exit velocity is down, although it's rebounded a little bit, and Spencer hinted at that. It's just not enough, and he's not really a plus bat, but he's William Contreras, so he's going to play mostly every day, and he's going to hit in the middle of the order, which would be, I guess, it wouldn't be more or less of a problem. It would be a different type of problem if the Brewers had another player to stick in that cleanup spot. Now, without him in there today, and I can give you the lineup if you haven't seen it yet, which you probably haven't because you probably have a job and you're out there contributing to society in a way that people like me are not. It's Frelick, Churio, Yelich, Hoskins, Collins, Turang, Durbin, Ortiz, Haas will be catching Mizorowski today. And I saw this come up in one of the group chats that I'm in. I wonder if Haas has a lot of experience catching Miz. I would imagine just because Haas, spent a good amount of time in the Brewers system. Their paths had to have crossed at some point, right? And even if not, like Haas is a good catcher, and I don't think he's in there because of some gimmick. I think Contreras probably needs a day off. Not that it's going to fix what ails him. It's not going to fix his hand, but it can't hurt. Last night, the action around Major League Baseball was absolutely incredible. Here, let me play you a couple of highlights. I made a little montage to begin the show, but it's been a couple of hours. Here we go. A couple of highlights from the Brewer game, and then a couple pieces of sound from Cubs Cardinals and how that game came down to the wire with the Cardinals winning their second straight at home against Chicago.
And a fly ball left. Well struck and out of here. Joey Ortiz, number 3. There's a fly ball left. And it's hit a ton. And Durbin leaves the yard. The eyes is Ortiz. Out to left again, headed towards that pen. Goodbye. Fly ball well hit center. Throw Armstrong back to the wall. He's got just enough room. Mason Wynn rounding third. PCA forgot how many outs there were. The front of the play lane. Little chopper. Nolan has to avoid the base runner. Throws the fence and got him. What a play. The Cardinals beat the Cubs 8-7 in a game that had a little bit of everything. That was one of the best games of the season.
Yeah, he just made a mistake. He lost track of the outs, and it's just a mistake.
So last night, I watched the end of Cubs Cardinals because Brewers Pirates was mostly in hand. What was it, a 4-run game? But the Brewers added a couple of other, after Peralta gave up that 3-run shot, the Brewers added a couple of other runs, didn't they? Yeah, 9-3. So they're up by 6. So that game occupied the big screen, but then on my phone, because I have the MLB app or whatever, sure, take my money, whatever, just take it. I watched the end of Cubs Cardinals on Marquee, and that game came down to the wire, and it was outstanding. And then I watched the post game on Marquee, and then I watched a little bit of a Cubs post game, and then I listened to Sam Olber's Locked on Cubs this morning because I'm just like, all of the Cubs frustration I want, and especially the complaints about Craig Counsell batting Dansby Swanson 5th, which I got a strongly worded message about that topic from producer Austin last night as well.
It's just a mistake.
I just love this audio.
Obviously lost track of the outs, and it's just a mistake.
Save that sound. That's the good stuff. That's the good Craig Counsell. Ortiz showed really well last night, and I think there was a moment in between. I'll say the moment was between the second and third inning last night, where it was starting to feel like, well, if the Brewers aren't going to make hay against the Pirates, and this week isn't going to be this windfall of wins that we were kind of sizing it up as, right? Then the Brewers' schedule gets a lot tougher with a trip to play the Mets, and then they host the Dodgers just a couple of days after that, a series after the Mets. I can't remember who separates them. I'm not going to look it up. Who cares? They have a couple tough opponents coming up. And last night in the second inning, Freddie Peralta gives up 3 singles, and the bases are loaded, and it's 0-0. And I'm thinking, okay, well, the Brewers lost last night. They got to go against Paul Skenes tomorrow, which I'm not discounting the possibility at all that the Brewers win tomorrow or today, I suppose. But last night I was thinking the Brewers could win tomorrow, but it's going to be a tall task against Skenes. Are we really about to get swept by the Pittsburgh Pirates? Peralta then gets a grounder where Durbin heads up, comes home, gets the strikeout, and then Isaac Collins makes a really good play in left to retire O'Neal Cruz on a line drive that was smoked. He gets out of the inning unscathed, and then in the bottom of the third, Joey Ortiz hits a 2-run jack, and it's like, okay, hold on. Everyone take a deep breath. Everyone relax. Joey Ortiz with a big swing. Freddie Peralta and hopefully this pitching staff going to be able to reach cruising altitude. And as long as Brian Reynolds doesn't hit 5 home runs between today and tomorrow, probably going to be okay. But it felt like for a second, the week and this portion of the season was kind of hanging in the balance. Freddie Peralta walks the high wire. Defense helps him out. And then Joey Ortiz shows up and it's like, okay. That's much better. No, not that. No, not that. It was more of a, okay. Less of an, he sounds like a bovine creature. I don't know, a donkey, a cow. I don't know what that is. I did not grow up on a farm. Some friends that grew up on dairy farms. One of my best friends in high school, big dairy farm. It was fun. I'd go do sleepovers there, and we'd shoot airsoft guns in the backyard, and dick around in the woods, make a bonfire. But the price of admission was early on in the morning. The calves need to be fed, even in the dead of winter, in the cold, in the rain. You put your gloves on. We're gonna go mix the formula in the milk house, take the bottles, go out to the calf pens, and then the most annoying ones were the ones they were weaned off the bottle. They got to drink out of the bucket, but the idiots won't put their head in the bucket, so you got to pour it in there and then take the calf's head and not waterboard it, but essentially stick its head in there. That's actually the kind of sound that you get from Counsell. You add in some bubbles. Sounds like a calf's head submerged in milk. That was not just the only home run and the only nice moment. Ortiz would then homer again in the 4th, and then Durbin would home run. When Caleb Durbin is hitting 3-run home runs and flipping his bat, some things might be in play for this Brewers team, and juxtapose what was happening in Milwaukee last night to what was happening in St. Louis. The Cubs are feeling pressure, and they're feeling adversity, I think, for the first time this season. I still think the Cubs are better on paper. They're more talented. I think other teams have had more talent in the past, and the Brewers have found a way to win more games. I don't know that the Brewers have always been, this juggernaut, amazing team in the NL Central. I think they, unlike the Cardinals or the Cubs, have had a pretty clear plan of attack with how they want to approach the season, where I think, the Cardinals are like, well, we don't have any good pitching. Let's go spend a bunch of money on Lance Lynn and Sonny Gray and see if that sticks. Now the Cubs got a little serious this offseason, trading for Kyle Tucker. And then, some pieces kind of have just progressed around him. Suzuki has been better. Hap, especially of late, has been better. Dansby was pretty piss poor last year. He's more Joey Ortiz than he is Willie Adames. Not that stops Craig Counsell from hitting him in the 5-hole, which was an issue for them last night. Yeah. But the Brewers, I think, have got some things going. And back to my original point, the Cubs are feeling adversity, I think, for the first time this season. They're feeling other teams in the division might have a clue, most specifically the Brewers. And I think I'd start with the Brewers because the Brewers are the team that's been, kind of holding them down ever since 2018. The Cardinals have popped up and had nice moments, and the Reds tried that one time. What was that, in 2019 or 2020? And then the pandemic hit, and they're like, never mind, man. We didn't really want to spend that money and do all these things. We're out. Who did they sign? That I think Castellanos was there for a year, and they made some other moves. But mostly it's been the Brewers who have really mucked up the Cubs season and the Cubs division, and now that team's only 2.5 back, and Jamison Tyone has kind of lost it, and the offense has regressed and come back down to earth just a little bit, and people are like, well, why did we pay Counsell $40 million? Is he really going to be the answer? Precisely. I saw our friend Sam Olber, Locked on Cubs. I shouldn't say our friend. He comes on my show anytime the two teams match up and gives a good preview. This is a good baseball guest. And was mocking Counsell on his podcast after the game and on Twitter because Counsell just doesn't really care that much about lineups. He's like, I don't think lineups really matter that much. Everybody's going to get their ups. It's not something that he really, I think, strained. And it's not something that he really stressed over when he was in Milwaukee. And I think there's some truth to that. Like, every player is going to have to make plays at a certain point, and it will come out in the wash. I think the struggle for major league managers, and this is what fans will pull their hair out, is you need to find a balance between doing what's best for 162 and what's doing best for tonight, or what's best for tonight. You need to find that balance, and it's a hard balance to strike, right? And if you push too hard on winning tonight, you can endanger the health of pitchers and the health of players that you need over the course of 162. But if you're always focused on the 162, you may not have the urgency and kind of the requisite locked inness, let's say, to win tonight and then win tomorrow. And then all of a sudden you look up and you're like, okay, we've lost 8 of 10 because we were so worried about the 162 that we forgot about tonight. And I think Counsell, by and large, walks that line pretty well. I think he's on the other side of the spectrum than Murph is. I think Murph is more win tonight, and Counsell is, well, do you want him one more inning tonight, or do you want him to miss 3 weeks with an arm strain? Like that kind of thing. Precisely. Yes, exactly. 608-321-1670. If you would like to join the show, I think we have a little bit of an issue with our phone line. Ebo was telling me this morning. There might be a little bit of an issue with the Verizon. So text or comment on the live stream. TR is back asking for Marquette. Dude, we did like 6 minutes on Marquette. We talked about Cam Jones in hour number 2. So if you missed that, go back, find it in the podcast, or rewind the live stream to the middle of hour number 2, because it's some good Marquette stuff, and I had you in mind, TR, the whole time. Well, the perfect game is dead. Jacob Mizorowski has walked the leadoff batter of the game. I think he got squeezed on strike 1, but what do you want me to do? Get mad about that? It's not something that I'm going to do. Here's Pat Murphy last night talking about Joey Ortiz's power that he has found.
No, I'm really happy for Joey. He also goes out and plays the heck out of defense. One of the most important positions on the field, and he plays it really well. So I'm really, really pleased with how he's. But I'd say confidence is number one.
It's hard to keep confidence when you've been that poor. Pat Murphy was asked, look, if not for his defense, like, would he even be up here right now?
Well, offensively, he was lower than whale poop. You know what I mean? You know that term, Joe? Whale poop. Well, when a whale it goes all the way to the bottom because it's a big animal, right? So when you're lower than that, that means you're really down low. And Joey was lower than whale poop. And for him to fight out of that and have the ability and the mental toughness to play defense still when you're down there under the whale crap, you just got to commend the guy for crawling out of it the way he has. I couldn't be happier.
And it's not just the power. He's been getting hits. So Murphy talks a little bit about that. His average is over 300 in the month of June.
Yeah, I mean, confidence is number one. He's starting to get confident and starting to believe when he goes up there that I can do some things. I mean, he's been on a torrid pace here. I don't know what the numbers are, but it's been really, really good.
And lastly, Isaac Collins making that play in left, but also just being a really solid, nice contributor and a really solid third outfielder for the Brewers.
That changed the game right there. You know, we were coming off a game where it seemed like we were a little snake bit, where everything went against us. The ball fell in, the cap shot fell in, the triple fell in the corner. You know, we overslide the bag in the ninth inning, and little things just happened. Bang at first with Trang. Things just seem like we're not going to get that break. And credit to the Pirates pitching last night. But then we start with Freddie, and Freddie's cruising, and then bases loaded, no outs in the second. And for Freddie to come up big there, him and William getting through that, and then Collins making that sliding catch with 2 outs. Underrated. People came to the game. They might have forgot that. I think that's obviously the difference in the game.
So Isaac Collins, that first step in that instinct, especially on that play when O'Neal Cruz ripped one with the bases loaded, like if he steps even slightly the wrong way, forwards, backwards, anything in between, he's not getting to that ball. It's actually Isaac Collins, conveniently enough, his best trait as an outfielder is that first step. Jumps, I believe the advanced metric is called best in jumps. It's best among Major League Baseball outfielders, not just in the National League or not just left fielders. He's also been a really productive offensive player. And with the news yesterday that Garrett Mitchell is recommended to have surgery that will put him out for 8 to 10 weeks, which means probably 15, because that's how it's worked with Garrett Mitchell. I'm not trying to be a jerk. That's just how it worked. I also think that even if Garrett Mitchell was healthy today, the best outfield that the Brewers can currently man with players in their system are the 3 that they're starting. Now, Blake Perkins as a 4th option is probably better than Daz Cameron. And with all due, it's not really saying all that much. Blake Perkins has some value from the left side of the plate and be a good pinch runner, but Daz Cameron can pinch run, be a defensive replacement. So it's not like, well, thank God Blake Perkins is back. Now we can really upgrade that 4th and final outfield spot. Slightly better than Daz Cameron, not by leaps and bounds. You're not getting an all-star back. I just think this is your outfield. Close to every day. All guys are young and in their prime. You can get them an off day here and there, and that's why I'd like to have Blake Perkins back, because I'd prefer that to Daz Cameron or Jake Bauers. But I don't see a reason to change this outfield up, if at all, really, if you don't have to. Now, I'd like that depth for injuries and the occasional day off, because I prefer that to Bauers and Daz Cameron. But that's about it. You're tweaking on the fringes at that point. Mizorowski has retired 2 batters. There is a runner at third. It was a walk, a wild pitch, and then a sacrifice fly to center that moved him over. We'll see if he can get this Gonzalez cat out, who looked like prime Babe Ruth to start the series. We'll see. We're going to take a break, come back, give you some more reaction to the Brewers, and we could circle back and hint on some other things that we've been touching on throughout the show as well. The Bill Michaels Show. My name is Grant Bilson for Bill today. We'll be back in just a couple of minutes.
This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
At Potawatomi, where ways to win are endless, another chance to capture epic cash and prizes comes Friday, June 27th. It's the season finale blockbuster drawings. Watch your entries from Enchanted Spins, Unreal Treasures, and Boundless Bounty come together for drawings where $300,000 in cash and prizes is there for the taking. Be there to win your share. June 27th only at Potawatomi Casino Hotel, Milwaukee. More info online. Must be 21 years old to play.
The Big River Rally, coming to La Crosse, Wisconsin, June 27th and 28th. Don't miss the excitement on the main stage. Friday night, it's Texas Hippie Coalition. And Saturday night, Drowning Pool. Tickets are on sale now. Want more? Follow Big River Rally on social or go to BigRiverRally.com.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
It's the Bill Michaels Show. Welcome back. We're through 1/2 inning of Skenes v. Mizrowski. Took him 20 pitches, but he got through there with 2 strikeouts. And how about this, Brewers fans? This isn't a testament to baseball in 2025. Jack Stern, Brewer fanatic, cohort to Spencer Michaelis, who joined us about an hour ago. So Jacob Mizrowski threw 14 fastballs in the first inning. 12 were triple digits. The other 2 were 99 miles per hour. I bring this up all the time on my evening show, 4 to 6, the Wisco Sports Show, if you're interested in such things. If you're like, hey, I need more of this, well, you can. Evening Drive. I bring this up all the time. I'm old enough to remember when 93 was really something for a starter. Like, seriously, you touch 93, 94. It's like, holy balls, this guy's scooting. This portion of the Bill Michaels Show brought to you by Skenes, both in Walker's Point and in Lake Country. I bet both places were jumping this morning, and the shuttles were running early and often because the ballpark is absolutely packed. Now, I've been to the one down in Walker's Point, the corner of 2nd National. You'll go right through there. You'll see it. It's easy to find, and it's an absolute blast of a place to be in, especially on a game day. Their food is awesome, and the energy is just, it feels like a Milwaukee bar, man. And maybe that's the best way to describe it. It sounds simple, but it's an absolute blast of a time, especially during Brewer games, during Brewer season. That's mostly when I've been down there. I also, a couple weeks ago, got to venture out and share a couple of beers and a fish fry with some friends at Skenes out in Lake Country. And I didn't really know what I was in for. I could not believe how big and how packed and how energetic that place was. Now, I went on a Friday after the show, and like you've been to pick up your kid at school, the daycare line or the pickup line. They have that off to the side just for the fish fry for you to take to go home. And Bill was explaining to me, yeah, they basically have 2 kitchens back there. One is for the restaurant and for people hanging out, and then the other one is just cranking out fish fries for the massive procession of cars outside. A really, really impressive place. And as Bill has told you too, now they're working up on a 3rd location, the old Libby, Montana's, where they played hockey up in Mequon. So Skenes, a proud partner of Bill and has been for a long time. And it's been a couple of weeks since I've been to either. So I need to get back down there. Maybe this weekend. Be a perfect opportunity. 608-321-1670 if you'd like to text or call the show. I would love to have you. I'm trying to watch a little bit of this game on my laptop out of the corner of my eye, because obviously that's the story of the day is Skenes versus Miz. I just can't believe how hard Mizorowski throws still. This ump looks like the zone is tight, which thank God, because someone needs to score some runs today. Skenes in that first at bat had kind of a borderline pitch outside, was called a ball. Miz much of the same in his first at bat. Christian Yelich just looked as bad as I've ever looked at that was 3 straight swings and miss at pitches in the dirt. Thanks, Christian. That was a good at bat. Okay. This might be a long day. And by long day, I mean short day, because I don't know that there's going to be a lot of action. I think they should continue to sell beers through the 8th inning today. Like, they should extend it, because there's a chance this game is done in 2 hours, 10 minutes. Yeah, on the live stream, Bat and Gaming says that at bat by Yelich was garbage. Yeah, that was, again, as bad of an at bat as I've ever seen. And Skenes is a righty. Like, I get it that Yelich sometimes gets up there, doesn't have a hope and a prayer against lefties. Is it time to move Christian Yelich down in the order? 608-321-1670. We were listening to a little bit of Pat Murphy from last night. Also talk just a little bit about Skenes and Mizorowski, Joey Ortiz, all of the Brewers topics of the day. Something that we hinted at in the third hour of the show yesterday, and we could circle back and cover this. I think this is a big story this week. Talked about this with Sam Bruchhaus. Aaron Rodgers saying on McAfee yesterday, this is probably going to be my last year in the NFL. And explains some of the details. And I actually want to talk about how this affects the football and not just Rodgers.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is it. That's why we just did a 1-year deal. Steelers didn't need to, put any extra years on that or anything. So, this was really about finishing with a lot of love and fun and peace for the career that I've had. I mean, I played 20 freaking years. It's been a long run, and I've enjoyed it. And what better place to finish than in one of the cornerstone franchises of the NFL with Mike Tomlin and a great group of leadership and great guys in the city that, expects you to win.
So he sounds very retirement tourish, very at peace with his career. And there was a part in the middle there that I want to circle back
Finishing with a lot of love and fun and peace. A lot of love and fun and peace.
If I was TJ Watt or Cam Hayward or one of these guys, I'd be like, you're kidding me.
A lot of love and fun and peace.
Well, I'm glad. You know what I mean? If I was a veteran, and I'm not just trying to pick at Aaron Rodgers here, I do wonder that if he goes into the season with an open mind and what did he say again?
A lot of love and fun and peace.
A lot of love and fun and peace. That maybe he's just open to just about whatever. Like, all right, if you guys want me under center and we're going to do a lot of zone running and it's going to be the true Arthur Smith experience. And, I'm not going to be running the play clock down and manipulating and managing. Like, maybe he's okay with that. I think that's probably what's best for him. I thought that 2 or 3 years ago, 4 or 5. I thought when Matt LaFleur first got here, that was probably what was best. And I think some of his best football came as a result of him surrendering himself a little bit and playing football.
A lot of love and fun and peace.
Playing with a lot of love and fun and peace. God, I hope they're at least decent. I hope they're at least in the mix. Last year was lame because the Jets season was basically over before it started. They lost 3 of their first 4 or 4 of their first 5. And it's like, okay, so they're probably cooked. And then they fired their coach. It's like, could you at least, I don't know, last season was lame. And 2 years ago was lamer because he didn't play at all. He busted his Achilles. I would like to see an honest-to-goodness football season with Aaron Rodgers this year. I think maybe he'll be in the best possible mindset for that. I just wonder how veterans who have been there slaving away with guys like Justin Fields and Russell Wilson and Kenny Pickett and Duck Hodges and whoever the F, fill in the blank, Mason Rudolph. Like, finally, a guy like Cam Hayward or TJ Watt's got an opportunity to play a quarterback that is a complete and total muffin. And he's coming with this attitude.
Love and fun and peace.
I don't know that love and fun and peace plays in the NFL. Like, it's a gladiator sport, man. So I do wonder, is this a little too retirement tourish? I'm curious. But maybe he will, surrender himself, to use language that he would probably use, to Arthur Smith and what Tomlin wants to do. He probably felt a little less inclined to do that in New York. But then again, he had his guy there. He had Nathaniel Hackett there. So even if he didn't trust and appreciate Saleh on the same level that he trusts and appreciates his guy now, Tomlin. Well, your offensive coordinator should have been there to bridge that gap, right? So I don't know. I am excited to see this fall. I'm excited to get to training camp. I don't want summer to slip away, so I'm more than happy to enjoy the next month before NFL teams kind of reconvene and pick it up for training camp. However, I am interested to see. I'm excited to see. And on the Packers side, maybe we could talk about this next. We have news that they're looking to extend both Quay Walker and Zach Tom. We can talk about that on the other side next. It's the Bill Michaels Show. Why don't we take a quick break? I'm going to watch a couple at bats with Skenes. He's pitching against Tommy Pham. I would expect that to be a short at bat. Yep, 0-2. We'll see. We'll come back, and I want to talk about some of the news that the Packers are looking to extend a couple of their players that are probably worthy of extensions, but I have some questions, as always. So we'll hit that next. It's the Bill Michaels Show.
Covering Wisconsin sports like a blanket, this is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 5 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 4 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
It's the Bill Michaels Show. Welcome back. Hope you're enjoying your afternoon. Bill will be back tomorrow, so no worries. And he can tell us all about Paul Skenes v. Jacob Mizorowski. We'll get there. This portion of the show brought to you by Dwayne's Cover It All in Wausau. And Bill has told you about Dwayne for a long time. I've had the pleasure of meeting Dwayne a time or two, and just one of the more down-to-earth, genuine humans that I have ever met. Period. Not just in the sports radio or media or advertising industry, but just a really awesome dude that'll help you out with whatever your upholstery needs may be, whether it's boat covers or awnings. Does a lot of office furniture, which I know Bill has told you about, gym equipment, signage outside in front of businesses, that sorts of thing. And oftentimes it's just way cheaper to upkeep and to maintain what you already have rather than buying it new. And Dwayne will talk about that a lot with office furniture. He'll have a business from Chicago or from Milwaukee, send him a batch of stuff because it's so much cheaper to get it, treated and crafted by Dwayne and his staff than it is to buy it all new. So you can go to dwaynescoveritall.com or give him a call, 715-870-2119. And I know, especially for boat owners around the state, you've probably got your maintenance done if you needed a new bimini top or a new cover or something like that. But just keep in mind for this winter, if it's something that you've been putting off for a while, okay, well, when the time comes, right when boating season is over and when we take the boat out of the slip or take it out of the water, give Dwayne a call and get that taken care of this winter. So if not now, just keep him in mind. That's all. Before that last break, I told you the Packers are looking, reportedly, to extend Zach Tom and Quay Walker. And I played a little audio on Friday on my show. I don't have it. I was digging for it. I don't have my fingertips, but I can read you the transcript. Packers general manager Brian Gutekunst joined Corey Behnke and Aaron Nagler on Packers Transplants last week, or was it the week before? It would have been last week. And talked about Zach Tom. I'll read you the quote. We've had really healthy conversations with Zach about locking him up, and certainly that's something we'd like to do. These things take time, and they never happen very quickly. He's been a really good player for us since the time he got here, done everything right by us, and hopefully we'll get there soon. I think that Zach Tom is the easiest, most obvious extension candidate on the roster. There are plenty of players who might get extended. Romeo Dobbs, Christian Watson, Jaden Reed, Dontavian Wicks, a bunch of them right there, right? Quay Walker, player like Carrington Valentine. Like there's lots of players along the defensive front who are younger, like Devontae Wyatt, or who's the other player? Carl Brooks, like players like that. There's lots of players who I could see. If you told me, hey, Grant, in the next year or two, they're going to extend this guy or that guy, I'd say, okay, yeah, I can see that. Yeah, I can see that happening. I think the only one that's clear-cut and obvious right now is Zach Tom. And I would really prefer for the Packers to not belabor this process. I understand they want competition at every spot, and I understand they want, youth and they want depth and all these things. Zach Tom, to me, seems like a pretty clear-cut right tackle for at least this next contract. Now, if you don't want to sign him to a third deal, fine. But right now, I think it's pretty obvious. I think he's proven just about everything that he needs to prove. Now, what I don't get, and I talked about this on my show last week, if you extend Zach Tom and you've already paid Aaron Banks and you may be extending or adjusting the contract of Elton Jenkins to play center, then I'm not really interested in a Rasheed Walker extension, which has been rumored, but it's been rumored in less concrete ways than Zach Tom and Quay Walker specifically. I don't really have an appetite for that because I'm not okay with you paying your left tackle, paying your left guard, paying your center, paying your right tackle the offseason after you drafted a guy in the second round, after the offseason where you drafted a guy in the first round. Do you know what I mean? That's poor allocation of resources, in my opinion. You can't pay everyone on your O-line big money after you've spent premium draft picks on those spots. If they were to extend or adjust or do whatever with everybody's contract, the only player on their line that they wouldn't be paying is their right guard. So basically, and this is how someone explained it to me, I can't remember who it was, texted into my show last week, I thought put it brilliantly. Basically, you'd have 3 top 100 draft picks competing for right guard, which is not exactly a premium position. It's important. All the positions on the O-line are important. But I understand multiple top 100 picks competing for tackle. But you can't draft Jordan Morgan and then pay Aaron Banks. And then you can't draft Anthony Belton and then pay your right and your left tackle and adjust the money with your center. Like that's a poor allocation of resources. It's a salary cap league. And while depth is very important, you need to come by your depth a little bit more efficiently than that. Now, Bryce comments on the live stream, a Quay Walker extension will not work out. I'm not sure about Quay Walker. I'm a lot less sure about Quay Walker than I am Zach Tom. I think Zach Tom, again, is clear cut. I think Zach Tom's an easy one. Now, you want to make sure you get the details right, and there's certainly no need to rush. I'd like it to be done before training camp. I'd like for him to be able to show up on day one of training camp without any drama and without any mess, without any issues. I would prefer that. That seems ideal. I don't want this to be 2 weeks into camp and Zach Tom standing on the sideline. I don't think that's necessary. With Jordan Love, that's a massive deal, and there's obviously things that need to be worked out considering he sat the first 3 years, and I'm sure there was plenty to go over. I don't think the Zach Tom extension needs to be complicated. My goal, if I was the Packers, was let's see if we can't have that done so he can walk into training camp day one and be our veteran right tackle who's been compensated and who's good. Let's not make that a thing. Quay Walker, you go either way on that one. I don't know what that extension would look like. Like, is he making top linebacker money? I don't even know. And I'm dealing with a lot here, but I can Google linebacker Spotrac. I got Brewers Cubs. They've loaded the bases on Skenes here in the second. Durbin again, man. A single. I still don't love Durbin long-term. Maybe as a second baseman. I certainly like him more at second than at third. But he keeps progressing and doing nice things. Back to linebacker, though. I want average annual salary. Let's see here. And this is really outside linebacker. I don't really want outside linebacker. I want inside linebacker. Let's see here. That would be Roquan Smith, Tremaine Edmonds, Fred Warner, Zach Bond. But Zach Bond has a lot of utility as a pass rusher. And Quay Walker could do that this year. It just hasn't really been his bag of beans like it was Zach Bond's last year. Jamie and Sherwood, Nick Bolton. These are the guys who were making, Patrick Queen making $40 million a year or more. Bobby Okereke, Azeez Al-Shaair. Now we're down to 35. Is Quay Walker good enough to make Dre Greenlaw money, $30 million a year? I don't really think so. Alua Khan or Jordan Brooks, could he make 20? I might consider giving Quay Walker, if he stays healthy and performs admirably as a counterpart to Edgerrin Cooper this year, is he 25 a year? I could see that. It's just, there's a big difference between being an admiral number 2 linebacker on a 5th-year option even, or on a rookie deal, and you're locked up for 4 years, probably $30 million each. That's a big jump. I wish there was a middle ground. You know what I mean? It's we'd love to give you 15, 20, 18. I might like that. I'm interested to see what Quay Walker does this year. I wouldn't be jumping to extend him the way that I jumped to extend Zach Tom. The Packers now all of a sudden, between Wisco Greaves says, what an at bat by Ortiz. Saw 3 pitches and a little swinging bunt down the first base line. All right, Brewers are on the board, 1-0. When I saw that comment, I'm like, oh, is he about to swing out of his shoes and fall over? Actually, a nice bat from Ortiz. Just put the ball in play. I think Levering has joked it might be a race to 1 today. I think that's a little bit rich. That's good bat to ball skills. There's some really good at bats in this inning between Turang and Durbin fighting. Turang especially, credit to him, just fighting up there. And I was watching not Brewers Cubs, but Cubs Cardinals last night, and Ryan Helsley was in the game, and it was Scamby, and I don't know who does color on marquee. I just don't watch enough Cubs games, but they were pointing out with Helsley, like the whole idea is have a normal at bat, and then when you get to 0-2, you defend, and you just fight, and you scratch and you claw to prevent from striking out, and hope that on one of these swings, you put the bat on the ball and you end up in the right spot. And that's what, remember, Arenado did that against McGill 2 Sundays ago now. That's a perfect example of that type of at bat. I just saw that from Turang. To a lesser degree, I saw it from Ortiz, or to a lesser degree, I saw it from Durbin. And then Ortiz only saw 3 pitches, strikes on the first 2, and then managed to defend and just put the ball on the grass. So sorry, we're going back and forth a little bit from Packers extensions to the Brewers, but when they're playing against Paul Skenes and they have a threat, all right, what are we going to do? Not pay attention to that, not talk about it? Your final thoughts, if you have anything, you got to text it in. I'm sorry, I don't know that the phone is working perfectly today. There's also a good chance that you're like, I'll just call Bill tomorrow, which is also fine, but you can text your thoughts in. It's 608-321-1670. And if you have any final thoughts on Packers extensions or the Brewers, we'll wrap up the show with that in the final segment next. We'll have about 10 minutes on the other side, which would be perfect. So YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, Twitter, Kick, LinkedIn, all of the things, all of the places. I'll get to your final thoughts, and I'll give you my final thoughts both on Packers extensions and the Brewers next here on the Bill Michaels Show.
Covering Wisconsin sports like a blanket. This is the Bill Michaels Show on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
and also Livy Dunn. The Brewers are up 3-0. Churio just hit a soft liner to center. Will they try to score on O'Neal Cruz? Haas shows the run home, but then he turns around. That's probably smart. Brewers are up 3-0. And I feel for Paul Skenes because it's all been soft contact. Little dribblers, little grounders, swinging buns, putting the ball in play, scoring on the contact. This is Murph ball. But there also is an element to this where it's like Turang battled. How many pitches did he see? And I'm sorry to just be I know I'm pulling up numbers on the fly. I'm pulling up box scores on the air. Then again, I'm the only one. If I had Austin here, I could yell at him and make him do it, but I'm perfectly capable of pulling up a box score on my own. I can walk and chew gum at the same time. I want to see this Turang at bat. Turang saw 7 pitches against Skenes. Ball, swinging strike, ball, foul ball, single. Which, it's not some 12 or 13 pitch at bat, but against Paul Skenes, that's really impressive. And it's been, like last night, the bottom of the order. Now Yelich is at the plate. If he even fouls a ball back in this at bat, he will improve significantly on his first at bat of the day. We'll see. Skenes actually got a little bit of a call to start the at bat. He got an inch or so inside, and the ump gave it to him, which I think is fair because Skenes got to be like, what the hell's going on? O'Neal Cruz had a shot at a ball in center that he couldn't come up with. And then, Nick Gonzalez, their second baseman, threw one to the backstop, attempting to come home. Skenes is like, my God, I play with a bunch of children. Now, Skenes, they've expanded the zone for him. Pity zone. Yelich is getting boned now. I mean, they're close, but what are you going to do? Any final thoughts on the Brewers? I'll take them on the live stream. Clemhead Mike says, Grant, I have to drive my wife to Cadott. Thank you for sharing. Yelich with a hit. Oh, yeah, baby. There's that good soft contact. I'm sorry, this is not exactly award-winning radio, but it's Paul Skenes Mizrowski. I'm going to watch. The Brewers have hung 4 runs on him in this inning. We were talking a little bit in the last segment about a couple of upcoming extensions for the Packers. And maybe, you know what we should do is maybe when Bill's back either tomorrow or Friday when we have some spare time, there's no pressing news, I'm going to give Bill a list of Packers who are either up for an extension maybe this offseason or next. And what would be interesting is to rank them in order of how confident and good I would feel about an extension right now. And I think Zach Tom is the crown jewel of the list. The Packers have a ton of players who are going into year 3, going into year 4 in the cases like Dobbs and Watson. It's like they could be extended or maybe not. I could see the Packers doing something with Dobbs. I've told you before that at times he's felt also like the odd man out. I could see them extending Watson. It would have to be a unique set of circumstances, but he's a pretty unique player. I could see them extending Wicks, or I could see Wicks continuing to have stone hands. I could see them extending Jaden Reed. That one's probably pretty close to up there. That seems pretty likely, maybe on that tier right beneath Zach Tom. Quay Walker, I'm not sure because I just don't know what he's going to cost. And there's a world in which last year, I think Quay Walker shows a lot better than he did. He had a stretch of games, 2 or 3 games, probably highlighted most by that Bears game in Chicago where he just was lost. He lost confidence. He lost conviction and belief in the gaps that he was supposed to shoot and the hits that he was supposed to make. And then later on in the year, he figured it out. What was left, I think, a little bit undecided and a little unclear after last season is what exactly does a linebacking core of Edgerrin Cooper and Quay Walker together look like? We saw it here and there, but mostly last year, it was either Quay Walker was healthy or Edgerrin Cooper was healthy. Or early on in the year, Edgerrin Cooper just didn't play nearly as much because he was still getting his arms around the playbook and still getting a grasp on things. I wonder if we get an extended run. I think it's probably naive to think that any player is going to remain perfectly healthy for an entire season. But if we get at least, can we get 13 or 14 games of those guys playing together? I want to see what that looks like. Because I think there's a world in which Quay Walker is a really good complement to Edgerrin Cooper. And the Packers in the past have had inside linebackers who've been good. They very rarely have had that player and then the nice complementary piece. I don't think Quay Walker needs to be a superstar to complement Edgerrin Cooper. Edgerrin Cooper has got those traits. Quay Walker needs to be veteran, let's say, veteran, right place, right time, kind of the nerve center of the defense. So Edgerrin Cooper can more fly around and make the plays that he has the traits to fly around and make. I just don't know. I don't know what kind of value to assign to a player like that. I think actually, of all the positions on the defense, if you were to ask me, Grant, like what position group do you feel best about? I think first would be safety. I think a close second is linebacker. Edgerrin Cooper, Quay Walker is your front line. Isaiah McDuffie being brought back, and then Isaiah Simmons. Again, none of these guys are superstars, but that's a nice, deep group that can absorb an injury, that can play a nice rotation. And if you get anything from Teron Hopper or Colin Oliver, that's just a bonus. Like that's 4 players I feel very good about with potential for even a little more. I feel pretty confident that Isaiah Simmons is like to be a superstar. I think we know that Isaiah McDuffie isn't a superstar, but I feel pretty confident of their floor. I think both of those players will provide a nice floor as a depth piece. And really, you just need floor around Edgerrin Cooper. He's the ceiling. Everybody else needs to be the floor. And I think Quay Walker is probably the best floor, the highest floor. I just don't know then how much money you can pay for that. And I was looking at some of the inside linebackers. The highest paid inside linebackers are guys like Roquan Smith, and they're making anywhere from, 20 to 18 to 21 to 17 million a year, which is not awful. It's not a position that costs you an arm and a leg, but can you get 80% of Quay Walker from a younger player? I don't know. Mizorowski strikes out the first batter of the top of the third, which is nice. You had to wonder how the long layoff would affect him. I do always love making that joke, but now he's through 36 pitches. He could use a real quick inning here. Skenes, I don't remember how many pitches Skenes threw in that last inning, but they really made him work to the point where there was a meeting on the mound and then guys working in the bullpen. So that is, I believe, the definition of making a guy work. The Pirates bullpen has not been terrible. I would just take any other option over Paul Skenes. So we'll see how this game progresses. The Brewers with a nice 4-0 lead and a bullpen that should be, in theory, pretty darn rested. Nick Mears didn't go last night. Uribe did. Koenig did last night, too, which was kind of a sneaky nice detail of last night's game. I thought Koenig had a pretty nice bounce-back outing, which Lane and Josh, who were calling the game, I was listening on the radio at that point, are like, you could use a get-right inning in this spot, and Koenig obliged. But McGill should be rested. Mears should be rested. If the Brewers really want to go get it, I suppose they could play with fire and try DL Hall. We talked about that a little bit with Spencer Michaelis. Not sure Murphy's for Aaron Ashby, which is not a very large one. Bryce Terang records the second out of the third. And I'm just excited to make my lunch and get ready for my evening drive show tonight and watch the rest of this game. Bill will be back tomorrow. Appreciate you putting up with me today. I hope you enjoyed the guests and maybe a fun change of pace. Or maybe you detested the whole experience. And if that's the case, it'll just make you appreciate Bill more tomorrow when he's back. So the Brewers are up 4-0 with 2 outs in the third. Mizorowski looks good, but I'll knock on wood as I say it. Brewers getting a couple off Skenes in the second. 4 runs is more than I expected to get off Skenes. We'll talk to all of you tomorrow. It's time for us to chat again. 20 hours from now. Time for us to have a good one.